Chapter 1963. Chu Fumian acted quickly. In an instant, he killed all the disciples of the sacrificial pavilion, broke the array of the Hula Island, and escaped. By the time the other disciples of the sacrificial pavilion arrived, there was only chaos. Chu Fumian acted so quickly that many of the martial artists and demon gods in the city could not see him clearly. They could only see that someone had rescued the princess of the sea and Qi Yangshi. The disciples of the sacrificial pavilion searched for a long time, but to no avail. They did not know who had rescued the princess of the sea and Qi Yangshi. These two have helpers. There's nothing strange about it. That lady is from the Lan family after all. Perhaps a hidden expert from the Lan family saved them. They can't have gone far. Continue searching. A few disciples of the sacrificial pavilion took the lead and continued searching. In the storm, Chu Fumian used his powerful spiritual energy to open up a space in the storm to block the attacks of the wind blades. The storm in the center of the Broken Islands was a forbidden area for martial artists and demon gods below the half-step to the celestial realm. Even martial artists and demon gods of the half-step to the celestial realm would find it dangerous to explore the storm. Chu Fumian hid there, and no one could detect him. It's all thanks to young master's help that we managed to escape this calamity. The princess of the sea looked at Chu Fumian and said gratefully, "Thank you, young master." Qi Yangshi also bowed at the side. Chu Fumian had saved them a few times, so Qi Yangshi was extremely respectful to him. "It's okay." Chu Fumian waved his hand and said, "It seems like your trip to the Broken Islands is not smooth sailing. The princess of the sea and Qi Yangshi must have come to the Broken Islands to search for the Lan family. However, it seemed like they were the only ones who did not say anything. Even their identities had been exposed. I didn't expect so many people back then to have sided with the traitor Lan Ming. This group of people is not worthy of being the Lan family's disciples." Qi Yangshi heard Chu Fumian's words and shouted angrily. His tone was full of anger. Miss Ling sensed that something was wrong and hurriedly brought us away. However, our identities were still exposed. That traitor Lan Ming knew about it. The princess of the sea looked at Chu Fumian and said hesitantly, "Young master's attire?" The princess of the sea could also tell that Chu Fumian was dressed like a member of the sea sacrifice sect. She remembered that Chu Fumian was going to the sea sword sect to do something. They hadn't seen each other for a while, but Chu Fumian had managed to sneak into the sea sacrifice sect. There are some twists and turns, but I have already settled the matter of the sea sword sect. However, in order to deal with Lan Ming, I have now infiltrated the sea sacrificial sect," Chu Fumian said calmly. Although Chu Fumian's tone was casual, both the princess of the sea and Master Qiang knew that it wouldn't be easy to sneak into the oceanic sacrifice sect. As the #1 sect in the vast sea star zone, the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect was filled with experts, and their examinations were extremely strict. Countless martial artists and Fey immortals who tried to sneak and had fallen. The fact that Chu Fumian was able to sneak into the Poseidon sect and even become a protector was enough to shock them. "Young master, what should we do next? Lan Ming's strength is probably much stronger than before." The princess of the sea looked at Chu Fumian and said, "That's right. I have already seen Lan Ming. His current strength is only one step away from the celestial realm. As long as he is willing, he can trigger the celestial tribulation at any time and enter the celestial realm." Chu Fumian said calmly, "Lan Ming, that traitor, actually has such strength now?" Master Qiang was shocked when he heard Chu Fumian's words. His tone was somewhat helpless. Lan Ming was once a genius of the Lan family. Later on, he killed countless people of the Lan family and condensed the extremely pure black whale bloodline. Moreover, he was nurtured by the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect. His strength must be extremely terrifying. Although he had some expectations, he still felt helpless when he heard Chu Fumian's words. He could enter the celestial realm at any time. With such strength, there were not many people in the vast sea star zone who could be Lan Ming's opponent. It was easier said than done to kill Lan Ming. Lan Ming's strength is already so terrifying. After hearing Chu Fumian's explanation, the princess of the sea was slightly better than Master Qiang. She had already awakened the black whale bloodline, so she naturally knew how powerful it was. Although the Princess of the Sea was now at the peak of the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu, in terms of true strength, she was more powerful than most demonic immortals who were half a step away from the celestial realm. If the disciples of the sacrificial pavilion hadn't set up the array to seal off Hula Island, those people wouldn't have been able to stop her. Lan Ming's black whale bloodline was even more powerful than the Princess of the Sea. Moreover, he was nurtured by the oceanic sacrificial sect. It wasn't surprising that he had such strength. Our Lan family has an ancient secret technique called the whale transformation technique. It's said that if you master it, you can turn into a whale and become a black whale. Although it can't be compared to a real black whale, it can possess some of the black whale's power. Lan Ming hasn't broken through yet because he wants to cultivate the whale transformation technique. The Princess of the Sea thought for a moment and said, "The whale transformation technique has a high requirement for the black whale bloodline. It can only be cultivated with an extremely rich black whale bloodline. Transform into a black whale? There's such a secret technique?" Chu Fengmian was slightly surprised. It was amazing that a human could transform into an innate divine beast, even if it only possessed 1% of the black whale's power. This secret technique reminded Chu Fengmian of the battle dragon technique. When the battle dragon technique reached the great completion realm, one could transform into the ancestor Tianlong. It seemed that the whale transformation technique was similar to the battle dragon technique. Lan Ming is now very powerful. I'm afraid there's no way to deal with him. Master Chiang said helplessly. With his talent, it was already the peak for him to cultivate to the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. After all, he wasn't a disciple of the Lan family, but a servant of the Lan family. Although he wanted to take revenge, Lan Ming's current strength made him feel desperate. It's not impossible to deal with Lan Ming. As long as he hasn't broken through to the celestial realm, I have a way to kill him. Chu Fengmian said calmly. Young master, you have a way? The Princess of the Sea was about to give up when she heard that Lan Ming's strength was so terrifying. However, when she heard Chu Fengmian's words, she said excitedly, "That's right. It's not easy to kill him with my strength alone. However, I've already called for help. As long as the helpers arrive and lure Lan Ming out of the oceanic sacrificial sect, we might be able to kill him." Chu Fengmian said as he took out a jade talisman. He transmitted a surge of spiritual energy into it. When he sensed the contents of the jade talisman, Chu Fengmian smiled. It seems that the helpers will be here soon. End of chapter. Chapter 1964. Before Chu Fengmian left the seashore sect, he notified the Mad Dragon Emperor and asked him to come to the Shanghai Star Zone as soon as possible. Chu Fengmian opened the jade talisman and received a message from the Mad Dragon Emperor. The Mad Dragon Emperor had already arrived at the Shanghai Star Zone. The Mad Dragon Emperor was a true sky realm expert. His speed was extremely fast. Since he had already arrived at the Shanghai Star Zone, it wouldn't take long for him to arrive. But to kill Lan Ming, I need your help. Chu Fengmian looked at the Princess of the Sea and said, when the Mad Dragon Emperor arrived, there was only one step left in this plan. It was also the most important step, which was to lure Lan Ming out of the seashore sect. If Lan Ming hid in the seashore sect, even Chu Fengmian and the Mad Dragon Emperor wouldn't be able to kill him after 3 years. Only by luring Lan Ming out to a remote place could Chu Fengmian and the Mad Dragon Emperor suddenly attack and kill him. If they wanted to lure Lan Ming out, they needed the Princess of the Sea's help. Lan Ming wanted to complete the whale transformation art and desired the Xianjing bloodline very much. As long as Chu Fengmian told Lan Ming about the Princess of the Sea, Chu Fengmian didn't believe that Lan Ming would be able to hold himself back. "We'll do as you say, as long as we can kill that traitor Lan Ming," the Princess of the Sea said hurriedly. Chu Fengmian looked around and said, "Let's go." There's a teleportation formation in the seashore sect that leads directly to the Broken Islands. It's not convenient to attack here. Chu Fengmian and the Mad Dragon Emperor naturally had to be fully prepared. They had to seal off the surroundings in advance so that the seashore sect wouldn't know. However, just in case, Chu Fumian had to lure Lan Ming to a more remote place. The Seashore sect had a teleportation formation that led directly to the Broken Islands. If the experts of the Seashore sect knew that Lan Ming was being killed, they would quickly rush over. Just in case, it was better to go somewhere else first. Is there a remote place nearby? Chu Fumian asked. Yes. There's a sea nearby called the Desolate Sea. It's extremely desolate and has no spiritual herbs. The spirit chi is also extremely thin. Normally, no oceanic race would step into it. Master Qi Yang hurriedly replied. Then let's go to the Desolate Sea. Chu Fumian immediately knew where the Desolate Sea was. He grabbed the Princess of the Sea and Qi Yangshu and stealthily left the storm and flew in the direction of the Desolate Sea. At the same time, Chu Fumian also informed the Mad Dragon Emperor of the location of the Desolate Sea through the Jade Talisman. In less than an hour, Chu Fumian had brought the Princess of the Sea and Qi Yangshu to the Desolate Sea. At the same time, an ancient aura suddenly descended. Chu Fumian knew that the owner of this aura was the Mad Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor is here, Chu Fumian said while sizing up the Mad Dragon Emperor. After not seeing him for a while, the Mad Dragon Emperor's aura was much stronger than when Chu Fumian left the Blue Dragon sect. After all, at that time, the Mad Dragon Emperor had just stepped into the Celestial Realm. He hadn't even had the time to fully control the power of the Celestial Realm. During this period of time, the Mad Dragon Emperor had been cultivating hard in the Blue Dragon sect. He had already fully mastered the power of the Celestial Realm. At the same time, the Blue Dragon sect's inheritance was extremely ancient. It came from the legendary country of 10,000 dragons. In the Blue Dragon sect, there were many Dragon Emperor secret techniques that only Celestial Realm Dragon Emperors could cultivate. After cultivating these Dragon Emperor secret techniques, the Mad Dragon Emperor's strength was even stronger than before. In such a short time, the Mad Dragon Emperor's strength had increased by more than 50%. The Mad Dragon Emperor was originally a peerless genius in the Blue Dragon sect. He once had the intention of breaking through the heaven-defying tribulation. There was no doubt about his talent. After stepping into the Celestial Realm, his strength had increased by leaps and bounds every day. Master, you have gained a lot from your trip to the Songhai Star Zone. The Mad Dragon Emperor glanced at Chu Fumian. He could tell that Chu Fumian's cultivation realm didn't seem to be any different. However, his strength was also much stronger than when he was in the Blue Dragon sect. In such a short time, Chu Fumian's strength had become even more tyrannical. The Mad Dragon Emperor was incomparably amazed by the speed of his growth. It also confirmed that his decision to appoint Chu Fumian as the Dragon Lord of the Blue Dragon sect was incomparably wise. All right, let's not talk about this first. This time, I called the Mad Dragon Emperor over because I want you to help me deal with someone. Chu Fumian waved his hand and said, time was of the essence. Previously, Chu Fumian had killed Wu Ju. This news might not be known to Lan Ming in a short time. However, if too much time passed, Lan Ming would notice some problems. Now that the Mad Dragon Emperor had arrived, Chu Fumian didn't want to waste any more time. Who is the person that Master wants to deal with this time? The Mad Dragon Emperor also heard Chu Fumian's incomparably serious tone. He couldn't help but become serious. He knew Chu Fumian's strength. With Chu Fumian's strength, unless he encountered a true Celestial Realm expert, Chu Fumian should be able to kill him. Since Chu Fumian called him over this time, it meant that the person that Chu Fumian wanted to deal with this time was someone that Chu Fumian couldn't deal with alone. A Celestial Realm expert. The Mad Dragon Emperor asked softly. Only a Celestial Realm expert could make Chu Fumian unable to deal with him. No, but it's almost there. The person I want to deal with is Lan Ming of the Sea Sacrificial Sect. His strength has already reached the point where he can pass the great tribulation of the Celestial Realm at any time. He's just suppressing his realm. If he's willing to not suppress his realm, he can step into the Celestial Realm in an instant. Chu Fumian said, Lan Ming? I've heard of this person. The Mad Dragon Emperor frowned. He seemed to have heard of this name. This person is a super genius of the Sea Sacrificial Sect. It's said that he's only one step away from the Ocean Emperor's position. Moreover, he has the bloodline of the Black Whale. It's indeed not easy to deal with him. Although the Mad Dragon Emperor had been hiding on the mountain peak, using the chaotic qi to suppress his injuries, he still had a disciple, Yin Longxian. Usually, Yin Longxian would also tell the Mad Dragon Emperor about the things that happened in the nearby star domains. This included the rising genius experts in the various star domains. He had also heard of Lan Ming's name. The Sea Sacrificial Sect. As far as I know, there are at least 3 celestial realm experts in the Sea Sacrificial Sect, maybe even more. The Mad Dragon Emperor said in a deep voice. His tone was incomparably fearful. He was also incomparably fearful of the Sea Sacrificial Sect. Yes, the Sea Sacrificial Sect is indeed not easy to deal with. However, I don't plan to deal with the Sea Sacrificial Sect this time. I just want to kill Lan Ming, Chu Fengmian said. His tone was filled with dense, killing intent. End of chapter. Chapter 1965. I will find a way to lure him out. Then, you and I will work together to kill Lan Ming. Chu Fengmian said coldly. I will seal the space so that the news won't spread. Even if Lan Ming is killed, the Sea Sacrifice Sect won't know that we did it. If we lure him out of the Sea Sacrifice Sect, it shouldn't be difficult to deal with him. The Mad Dragon Emperor nodded. If Chu Fengmian wanted to rush into the Sea Sacrifice Sect to kill Lan Ming, the Mad Dragon Emperor would have to persuade Chu Fengmian. After all, he had heard of the strength of the Sea Sacrifice Sect. Even though the Mad Dragon Emperor was a Sky Realm expert, he didn't dare to barge into the Sea Sacrifice Sect. Once he did, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to return. However, if Lan Ming left the Sea Sacrifice Sect, it wouldn't be too much of a problem to kill him. Lan Ming was alone. Even though he could step into the Celestial Realm at any time, he was no match for a true Celestial Realm powerhouse like the Mad Dragon Emperor. Moreover, Chu Fengmian would help. If the two of them worked together, they would have more than a 90% chance of defeating Lan Ming. All right, Mad Dragon Emperor, you hide first. Wait for me to lure Lan Ming over, Chu Fengmian said. The Mad Dragon Emperor nodded. His figure flashed and gradually hid behind Chu Fengmian. With his strength, even Chu Fengmian couldn't detect the Mad Dragon Emperor's existence if he deliberately hid. All right, the two of you don't have to struggle. Wait for me to lure Lan Ming over. Chu Fengmian looked at the Princess of the Sea in Qi Yangshi. Suddenly, his palm moved and caught the two of them in his palm. It was as if he was holding them both. At the same time, a compass appeared in Chu Fengmian's hand. It was the compass that Wu Ju had given him before he left the sacrificial pavilion. This compass had the ability to communicate with Lan Ming. Chu Fengmian injected a stream of spiritual power into it and said at the same time, Lan Ming, I have already caught the person you want. Come over now and undo my restriction. I will hand these two people over to you. Chu Fengmian believed that Lan Ming on the other side could hear this voice. Sure enough, the moment Chu Fengmian spoke, an angry roar came from the compass. Impudent! Brat! How dare you bargain with me? You are courting death. Tell me where you are quickly. Be obedient, and I can still spare your life. Otherwise, I will activate the restriction and you will die. Lan Ming's voice that came from the compass contained an incomparably dignified and lofty voice that was full of threat. Is it? You can activate the restriction to kill me, but unfortunately, you will never be able to find the person you are looking for. No need to talk nonsense. If you agree to remove the restriction on me, I will tell you where I am. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly again and again, as if he was bargaining with Lan Ming. His tone was somewhat threatening. Lan Ming's words from the compass were clearly filled with boundless fury. You little brat, you dare to threaten me? It seems that I, Lan Ming, am really too kind. A little brat dares to threaten me? Die. Rumble. Suddenly, the compass exploded, and a figure emerged from the center of the compass. This figure was Lan Ming. The compass seemed to contain a teleportation array. Lan Ming used the compass to cross 1,000 miles. He took the bait. Chu Fengmian smiled when he saw Lan Ming's figure appear. He had long seen that there was a teleportation array in the compass. Although it was hidden very well, it couldn't escape Chu Fengmian's eyes. Chu Fengmian had just bargained with Lan Ming to lure him out. Lan Ming had a transcendent status in the Oceanic Sacrifice Sect, and had always been arrogant. How could he tolerate the provocation of an ant like Chu Fengyan? After being provoked by Chu Fengyan, Lan Ming directly teleported over through the compass. Brat, you dare to threaten me? I'll make you suffer all the pain in the world. Lan Ming's figure condensed and looked directly at Chu Fengyan. His eyes were filled with boundless anger. He suddenly waved his hand as if he was activating the restriction on Chu Fengyan. He wanted Chu Fengyan to suffer all the pain in the world. But at this moment, Lan Ming's expression suddenly changed. He suddenly realized that the restriction he had planted in Chu Fengyan's Dao heart had disappeared. What? Lan Ming, you want to kill me? Unfortunately, today is the day you die. Chu Fengyan laughed and suddenly said, Dragon Emperor, make your move. All right. The Mad Dragon Emperor's figure suddenly appeared behind Chu Fengyan. Suddenly, an incomparably huge dragon claw blasted toward Lan Ming. This sudden change completely exceeded Lan Ming's expectations, especially when the Mad Dragon Emperor attacked. The power contained in it was the power of a true sky, human realm powerhouse. Lan Ming had always been incomparably arrogant. He didn't put Chu Fengyan in his eyes at all. In his opinion, even if Chu Fengyan had some tricks up his sleeve, he would be unable to withstand a single blow. However, Lan Ming never imagined that a sky human realm powerhouse would suddenly attack him at this time. Who are you, senior? I'm an elder of the Sea Sacrifice sect. No matter what benefits this brat promised you, don't make a mistake. You're provoking the entire Sea Sacrifice sect by attacking me. Lan Ming hurriedly activated his power to resist as he shouted loudly. Sea Sacrifice sect? It's nothing. After killing you, I like to see if the old man of the Sea Sacrifice sect dares to be my enemy. The Mad Dragon Emperor sneered. Although he was afraid of the Sea Sacrifice sect, he wasn't afraid of the threat in Lan Ming's mouth. Moreover, the Sea Sacrifice sect might not know that he killed Lan Ming today. Rumble. The Mad Dragon Emperor transformed into his original form and bombarded with dragon claws. Even with Lan Ming's strength, he couldn't defend against the Mad Dragon Emperor's continuous attacks. Damn it! Lan Ming's expression suddenly changed. He knew that the Mad Dragon Emperor and Chu Fengyan were obviously determined to kill him today. They weren't afraid of the threat of the Sea Sacrifice sect at all. All the energy in his body suddenly burst out, and his figure disappeared without a trace. He's trying to escape. The Mad Dragon Emperor roared. Although he could kill Lan Ming, if he was alone, the Mad Dragon Emperor wouldn't be able to stop Lan Ming if he wanted to escape. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guest House Mobile Version. Chapter 1966. Lan Ming's strength was already at the celestial being realm. Even though Mad Dragon Emperor was stronger than Lan Ming, he couldn't kill Lan Ming directly. Seeing Lan Ming disappear, Mad Dragon Emperor's face showed a bit of anxiety. If Lan Ming was allowed to escape, there would be endless trouble in the future. Just the revenge of the Sea Sacrifice sect alone would be unbearable. Don't worry, he can't escape. Chu Fengyan sneered when he saw Lan Ming's figure disappear. Ancestor Tianlong's power gathered at this moment and blasted out. The entire desolate sea was sealed by this power. Tianlong change. Seal. Chu Fengyan had expected that Lan Ming would escape. After all, Mad Dragon Emperor was a true celestial being realm expert. No matter how arrogant Lan Ming was, he could only escape. Chu Fengyan had been waiting for this moment. He didn't make a move because he wanted to seal Lan Ming in the desolate sea. Ancestor Tianlong's power had already been scattered in the desolate sea by Chu Fengyan. With Chu Fengyan's activation, all the power burst out instantly. The entire desolate sea was instantly sealed by layers of seals, turning the entire desolate sea into a cage. Even Lan Ming couldn't escape. Ancestor Tianlong's power. Wasn't the primogenitor sky dragon's blood essence in your body extracted by me? Also, how did you manage to break my restrictions? Lan Ming stared at Chu Fengyan in disbelief as he looked at the sealed, desolate sea. Who the hell are you? In his opinion, he had already known all of Chu Fengyan's trump cards. He had even planted a seal on Chu Fengyan's Dao heart and controlled it. Chu Fengmian was only Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations. In his opinion, even if Chu Fengmian had some trump cards, it was only so. He didn't expect that Chu Fengmian wasn't an ant in his eyes, but a true dragon. It wasn't Mad Dragon Emperor who was threatening his life, but Chu Fengmian. Mad Dragon Emperor might be strong, but he couldn't stop Lan Ming if he wanted to escape. However, Chu Fengmian had sealed the entire desolate sea, which made him desperate. There was no possibility for him to escape. So, a jade talisman suddenly flew out of Lan Ming's body when he spoke. Lan Ming seemed to want to send a message to the experts of the Sea Sacrifice sect so that they could come and rescue him. However, when the jade talisman encountered the layers of seals, it came to a stop and was caught by Chu Fengmian. Lan Ming's expression became even more unsightly. Because of the lockdown, he couldn't even send a message to the experts of the Sea Sacrifice sect. In other words, even if he tried to stall for time, it would be useless because the experts of the Sea Sacrifice sect had no idea that he was being surrounded. Who are you people? If you dare to kill me, you'll suffer the wrath of the Seashore sect. If you need anything, I can give it to you. In this situation, Lan Ming calmed down and said to Chu Fengmian, as long as he didn't die today, then when he returned to the Seaborn sect, he would have 10,000 ways to get revenge on Chu Fengmian. With a situation like this, Lan Ming was willing to lower his head for the time being. Hearing this, Chu Fengmian sneered. Since he had attacked today, there was no reason for him to stop. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had been entrusted with this task, so he would naturally do as he said. Die! Chu Fengmian didn't waste time talking nonsense. After sealing the space, 2 sword lights flew out from his back. Chu Fengmian didn't dare to use his full strength in the Seaborn sect, but he had no scruples now. Chu Fengmian attacked with both swords, and countless sword lights slashed at Lan Ming. At the same time, the Mad Dragon Emperor also attacked. He transformed into his true form, and countless dragon claws slashed down from the sky. Damn it! Damn it! I didn't expect to be tricked like this. If I can escape today, both of you will die. Lan Ming roared. He had never suffered such a great loss since he joined the Seaborn sect. Lan Ming grabbed with his hand, and his body swelled wildly. A huge whale phantom shrouded his back. It was the phantom of the mysterious whale. The mysterious whale bloodline. The mysterious whale bloodline in Lan Ming's body was obtained by killing countless disciples of the Lan family. It was incomparably pure. Later on, he cultivated the whale transformation art, which made the power of the mysterious whale bloodline even more terrifying. The power that erupted at this moment was 10 times stronger than the power that Lan Ming had just displayed. After confirming that Chu Fengmian and the Mad Dragon Emperor wouldn't let him go, Lan Ming didn't hide his strength anymore. He unleashed his full strength and punched at Chu Fengmian. The shocking power of this punch shook the heavens and the earth. The spatial seal around Chu Fengmian couldn't help but shake. Lan Ming also understood that Chu Fengmian was the core of this battle. As long as he could kill Chu Fengmian, he could break the seal around him and escape alive. Therefore, Lan Ming aimed his attack at Chu Fengmian. In an instant, he unleashed his full strength. 10 fist winds fell at the same time. The power of any one of these 10 fist winds was almost comparable to the bombardment of an ordinary sky, human realm martial artist, and demon god. The power of these 10 fist winds wasn't inferior to an immortal technique. Under such a punch, any martial artist or demon god below the celestial realm would only have a dead end. However, Chu Fengmian was an exception. Although Chu Fengmian was only at the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, his amazing fortuitous encounters had already made Chu Fengmian's strength unfathomable. Moreover, Chu Fengmian's immortal true body had advanced further before this. Even if it was a one-on-one battle, he might not be afraid of Lan Ming. Tri-Sun Raging Flame Sword. 4-sided Hurricane Sword. Boom! Chu Fengmian unleashed both swords. 2 completely different forces erupted from these 2 spiritual swords. Shocking sword intent erupted from Chu Fengmian's back and integrated into these 2 swords. Chu Fengmian had obtained the Sword Dao Totem of the Sea Sword sect. Although he hadn't fully comprehended it, it had allowed his Sword Dao to advance by leaps and bounds in a short period of time. Now, Chu Fengmian could unleash the two sword techniques of the first Sword Emperor in an instant, transforming wind and assisting fire. The power of these two swords was far greater than the power of a single sword. Two dazzling sword lights collided with the 10-fist winds unleashed by Lan Ming in the air. The two forces collided in the air with earth-shattering power. Chu Fengmian felt as if his body was about to fall apart. The collision of the two forces was too much for Chu Fengmian's body to bear. Cracks started to appear on his body. The collision of these two forces was almost equivalent to the collision of the true sky, human realm power. Even Chu Fengmian's immortal true body was about to shatter. In a chapter 1967. However, Chu Fengmian's physical body was instantly reconstructed with a thought. After condensing the immortal true body, Chu Fengmian could recover his physical body in an instant. This little injury had no effect on Chu Fengmian at all. The power of this sword had already surpassed ordinary immortal techniques in terms of profoundness. Of course, Chu Fengmian's realm was too low. The power he displayed was still some distance away from that of a true celestial realm powerhouse. However, the profoundness of the sword technique was not inferior at all. It truly contained the power of an immortal technique. It was already extremely terrifying for a Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu to be able to display such a sword technique. This was also the strongest sword technique Chu Fengmian could display. Chu Fengmian's power had reached a bottleneck. Only when Chu Fengmian broke through and stepped into the half-step celestial realm could he unleash more power. Chu Fengmian couldn't bear it. On the other side, Lan Ming wasn't any better. He also retreated continuously. His body shook a little, and he suffered some minor injuries. Lan Ming also cultivated some secret techniques of the body refining Dao. In addition, he contained the bloodline of the black whale. His body was extremely tough. However, he still suffered some minor injuries under the collision of power. This collision was comparable to a celestial realm powerhouse. After all, he wasn't a true celestial realm powerhouse. It was extremely strenuous for him to resist this collision. This Lan Ming is really powerful. He's only a half-step celestial realm powerhouse and hasn't passed the celestial tribulation. It's actually difficult for me to defeat him. If he passes the celestial realm, I'm afraid even Mad Dragon Emperor and I won't be able to kill him. Chu Fengmian looked at Lan Ming and marveled at his power. Lan Ming was only a half-step celestial realm powerhouse and hadn't passed the celestial tribulation. Once he passed the celestial tribulation, his strength would increase countless times. At that time, no one would have a chance to kill Lan Ming. At least before Chu Fengmian stepped into the celestial realm, there wouldn't be such a chance. Now that Lan Ming hadn't passed the celestial tribulation, it was the last chance for Chu Fengmian to make a move. It was indeed difficult for Chu Fengmian to kill Lan Ming in a one-on-one battle. However, Chu Fengmian was fully prepared today. He wasn't the only one who wanted to kill Lan Ming. Mad Dragon Emperor, do it! Chu Fengmian shouted coldly, and the Mad Dragon Emperor suddenly attacked. Kill him while he's down. Lan Ming had suffered a minor injury when he fought with Chu Fengmian. His attention was now focused on Chu Fengmian, so it was the best opportunity for the Mad Dragon Emperor to attack. Rolling dragon power erupted and transformed into the shape of ancient battle dragons. It was as if a group of dragons were roaring and attacking Lan Ming. Each primordial battle dragon was the condensation of the Mad Dragon Monarch's power. There were dozens of primordial battle dragons in total. Their combined power far surpassed the 10-fist winds that Lan Ming had just unleashed. Damn it! Whale, transformation art. I'm a black whale. The primordial war dragons descended together and charged at Lan Ming. Lan Ming was keenly aware of this. A somewhat insane smile appeared on his face. Suddenly, his entire body swelled. Vaguely, Lan Ming merged with the shadow of the black whale behind him and transformed into a real black whale. After transforming into the black whale, Lan Ming's strength suddenly increased countless times. He wasn't afraid of the primordial battle dragons that descended one after another. His huge body rushed forward and crashed into all the primordial battle dragons, shattering them, transforming into the black whale. Chu Fengyan frowned. He originally thought that he had already pushed Lan Ming's strength to the limit. He didn't expect Lan Ming's strength to soar countless times in the blink of an eye. This person's accumulation of strength was simply unfathomable. In a short period of time, his strength had soared 100 times. It should be known that Lan Ming's strength in his normal state was almost invincible among the half-step celestial being realm. Chu Fengyan didn't expect Lan Ming to have hidden his strength so deeply. His true strength was 100 times stronger than his normal state. After transforming into the black whale, Lan Ming's strength was almost on par with the Mad Dragon Emperor. He had truly stepped into the celestial being realm. This is not the complete whale transformation art. Lan Ming can't maintain the black whale state for long. The Princess of the Sea saw that Lan Ming had transformed into the black whale, and her voice was quickly transmitted. She could see that Lan Ming hadn't completely transformed into the black whale. He was only using the power of the whale transformation art to temporarily achieve this. It was a secret technique that could increase his strength in a short period of time. So what if I can't maintain it for long? This period of time is enough for me to kill all of you. You people dared to ruin my plan, causing my efforts to be in vain. Today, I'm going to kill you all. Make up for my loss. Lan Ming sneered. Suddenly, a series of thunderclaps sounded in the sky. At the same time, tribulation clouds began to condense in the sky above the entire desolate sea. Lan Ming's face revealed a hint of arrogance when he heard the thunderclaps. No matter how powerful you are, you can't kill me today. As long as you can't kill me today, it won't be long before you die. Great tribulation of the celestial being. Chu Fengyan knew what kind of tribulation cloud it was when he saw the tribulation clouds condensing. It was Lan Ming's great tribulation of the celestial being. In this desperate situation, Lan Ming no longer suppressed his strength. He unleashed his full strength and attracted the great tribulation of the celestial being. Originally, Lan Ming had been unwilling to break through in order to cultivate the whale transformation art. However, today he was surrounded by Chu Fengyan and the Mad Dragon Emperor. He couldn't care less. Once the great tribulation of the celestial being was triggered, Chu Fengyan and the Mad Dragon Emperor had to retreat. Otherwise, they would die in Lan Ming's great tribulation of the celestial being. What should we do? The Mad Dragon Emperor looked at Chu Fengyan and asked. Their original plan was to not give Lan Ming a chance to trigger the great tribulation of the celestial being. They would directly attack and kill Lan Ming. However, both Chu Fengyan and the Mad Dragon Emperor had underestimated Lan Ming. As a result, Lan Ming had already triggered the great tribulation of the celestial being. If they continued to fight, they would only end up dying together. However, if they let Lan Ming go today, Chu Fengyan and the Mad Dragon Emperor would have to face the Mad Dragon Emperor's crazy revenge. Lan Ming's strength alone would be above Chu Fengyan and the Mad Dragon Emperor once he crossed the great tribulation of the celestial being and stepped into the celestial being realm. Lan Ming had also obtained countless opportunities. His foundation could be said to be terrifying. These opportunities would all erupt when Lan Ming stepped into the celestial being realm. In an instant, Lan Ming's strength would soar more than 10 times. At that time, he alone would be a great threat. At this time, they were stuck in a dilemma. We can't let this person go. Chu Fengyan's eyes were incomparably cold. Letting Lan Ming go at this time was no different from letting a tiger return to the mountain. End of chapter. Chapter 1968. If he didn't kill Lan Ming today, the one who would die in the future would definitely be Chu Fengyan. Chu Fengyan was well aware of this. With Lan Ming's character, once he stepped into the celestial realm, the first person he would kill would be Chu Fengyan. Besieging Lan Ming this time was the best opportunity to kill him. They couldn't give it up. Kill. Before the great tribulation of the celestial being descends, kill this person. Chu Fengyan sent a message to the Mad Dragon Emperor with his spiritual sense and made up his mind to kill him. It would take some time for the Deva tribulation to descend. Chu Fumian had to kill Lan Ming before that. This was also Chu Fumian's last chance. However, Lan Ming also knew this, which was why he deliberately used the whale transformation art. At this moment, he transformed into a black whale and forcefully passed through this period of time. Killing Lan Ming, who had transformed into a black whale, was almost as difficult as killing a Sky Realm expert like the Mad Dragon Emperor. Especially before the Deva tribulation descended, killing Lan Ming now was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Kill. The Mad Dragon Emperor also knew the difficulty, but he was willing to believe in Chu Fengyan. The word kill also represented the Berserk Dragon Emperor's attitude. He had taken out his killing intent. In that instant, Chu Fengyan and the Mad Dragon Emperor did not hold back at all as they unleashed all of their killing moves. Above the desolate sea, the tribulation clouds were gathering at an extremely fast speed. They would probably finish gathering within 100 breaths. Once the tribulation cloud was completed, it would be the time for the Deva tribulation to descend. Chu Fengmian, Mad Dragon Emperor, and Lan Ming would all die to the Empyrean tribulation. The more people there were, the more terrifying the power of the celestial tribulation became, until it was unstoppable. The Mad Dragon Monarch also knew how terrifying the sky human tribulation was. He made a prompt decision and suddenly roared. The power of the dragons gathered in his palm, and a sharp claw fiercely bombarded downward. Ancestor's fourth form. With the Mad Dragon Emperor's current celestial realm cultivation, the power of the 9 moves of the primogenitor was completely different from that of Chu Fengyan. It was a true immortal art. In fact, the 9 forms of the primogenitor was the most powerful move among the countless immortal techniques. As the claw struck out, a tyrannical force slashed down. This tyrannical force seemed as though it was going to tear the entire desolate sea apart. The fight between celestial realm powerhouses had the power to tear apart heaven and earth. The scene before him couldn't be clearer. If the Mad Dragon Emperor was willing, he could even tear the desolate sea apart with his full strength. Now, the Mad Dragon Emperor's target was Lan Ming. However, even the aftermath was unbearable for a half-step celestial being. It bombarded the desolate sea, creating countless bottomless trenches. 9 profound swordsmanship. Tamlang, a huge door. Lu Cun, heavenly secrets. 7 kills. Chu Fengmin attacked at the same time. The first 5 forms of the 9 profound sword art were all slashed out. The power of the 5 forms fused into one, condensing the power of the stars in the sky into a river of sword energy that slashed out with a loud bang. Lan Ming, who had turned into a black whale, was immediately enveloped by the Sword Chi Galaxy. In the Sword Chi Galaxy, thousands of sword energy slashed towards Lan Ming in an instant. Any one of the sword energy was enough to easily kill a half-step celestial being, realm martial artist, and demon god. However, Lan Ming, who was trapped in the Sword Chi Galaxy, did not show the slightest bit of panic. He laughed continuously. The giant black whale's body suddenly erupted with a tyrannical force that swept across the surroundings. Bang! 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 The Sword Chi Galaxy was instantly shattered under the sweeping force. At the same time, the Mad Dragon Emperor's primogenitor's 4th form also bombarded Lan Ming's body. However, it only left a small wound on Lan Ming's body. This wound was not even worth mentioning to the incomparably huge mysterious whale. Chu Fengmian and the Mad Dragon Emperor's joint attack only caused Lan Ming to suffer a minor injury. It was far from harming his core. Ha! You 2 trash want to kill me? I've turned into a black whale. Even 2 or 3 celestial being realm powerhouses can't kill me. Lan Ming looked at the tribulation clouds that were condensing in the sky and laughed continuously. If you don't leave now, you won't have the chance to. More than half of the tribulation clouds in the sky had condensed. It seemed that because Lan Ming's power was getting stronger, the speed of the celestial being tribulation was getting faster and faster. If this continued, the celestial being tribulation would definitely descend in 10 breaths of time. Lan Ming is really powerful. He is turned into a black whale and is much stronger than ordinary celestial being realm powerhouses. The more urgent it was, the calmer Chu Fengyan analyzed everything in front of him. Chu Fengyan struck out countless sword lights in succession, but he couldn't hurt Lan Ming. If it was a veteran Ocean Emperor like the Linjian Ocean Emperor, he would have fallen under the joint attack of Chu Fengyan and the Mad Dragon Emperor. However, Lan Ming only suffered some minor injuries. Chu Fengyan knew that this was the power of the Black Whale bloodline in Lan Ming's body. The stronger the innate divine beast bloodline was, the more the power of the bloodline would be stimulated. The gap between the beast god and the beast god of the same realm would become bigger and bigger. For example, Chu Fengyan integrated with the Genesis Chi and became a heaven and earth variant. Perhaps it wasn't too heaven-defying when he was in the Emperor realm, because Chu Fengyan's realm was too low and he couldn't exert the true power of a heaven and earth variant. When he reached the half-step celestial being realm, or even the celestial being realm, Chu Fengyan's strength would increase countless times and he would become a true heaven-defying figure. But if he didn't kill Lan Ming today, then Chu Fengyan would have no future. A thunderclap resounded above Chu Fengyan's head. This thunderclap also indicated that the celestial being tribulation was about to descend. Rolling tribulation thunder surged in the tribulation clouds as if it could descend at any time. Human Emperor Jar. Time was running out, so Chu Fengyan didn't hold back. With a long roar, an ancient jar suddenly appeared in Chu Fengyan's palm. This ancient jar appeared in Chu Fengyan's palm and suddenly turned into a long halberd, the Human Emperor halberd. What's this? An extreme immortal weapon? Why do you have such a thing in your hand? The moment Lan Ming saw the Human Emperor halberd in Chu Fengyan's palm, he felt a sense of threat in his heart. This Human Emperor halberd seemed to be a serious threat to him. The power on it made him feel a kind of immortal weapon power. At the same time, Lan Ming also saw that there seemed to be cracks on the Human Emperor halberd in Chu Fengyan's hand. When he saw the cracks, Lan Ming's eyes showed some disdain and the fear in his eyes disappeared a lot. It turns out to be an incomplete extreme immortal weapon. It's nothing. You want to deal with me? You're daydreaming. Genius remembered this address in 1 second. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1969. A complete extreme Tao immortal weapon had the power of a celestial realm powerhouse just from the weapon spirit. Not to mention the original power of an extreme Tao immortal weapon. An extreme Tao immortal weapon was a great threat to celestial realm powerhouses and even profound heaven realm powerhouses. Even Lan Ming was afraid of the power of an extreme Tao immortal weapon. However, when he saw that the Human Emperor's halberd in Chu Fengyan's hand was only an incomplete extreme Tao immortal weapon, his fear lessened a lot. An extreme Tao immortal weapon would lose a great deal of power, even if it was slightly incomplete. It could even lose 90% of its power. In his opinion, Chu Fengyan was just a 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Even if he had an incomplete extreme Tao immortal weapon, he wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, this extreme Tao immortal weapon was still a supreme treasure even if it was incomplete. If he could repair this extreme Tao immortal weapon, he would be able to defeat countless celestial realm powerhouses when he reached the celestial realm in the future. This extreme Tao immortal weapon isn't something you're qualified to possess. Give it to me. The moment the Human Emperor's halberd appeared in Chu Fengyan's hand, Lan Ming suddenly took the initiative to attack. He transformed into a huge, profound whale and charged at Chu Fengyan. At the same time, a surge of spiritual power suddenly transformed into an arm out of thin air and grabbed at the Human Emperor's halberd in Chu Fengyan's hand. The moment Lan Ming saw the Human Emperor's halberd, he immediately wanted to snatch it. He took the initiative to attack and snatched the halberd. When Lan Ming attacked, Chu Fengyan felt that the Human Emperor's halberd in his hand was about to be snatched away. The arm that appeared out of thin air wasn't a real arm, but a secret technique that specialized in snatching other people's spiritual weapons. If he wasn't careful, the Human Emperor's halberd might really be snatched away by Lan Ming. The Ancient Emperor's Art of War? Lan Ming actually knows this ancient secret technique? Chu Fengmian's mind stirred, and he suddenly understood that Lan Ming was using a secret technique called the Ancient Emperor's Art of War. Although this secret technique was not an immortal technique, its power was above countless immortal techniques. It was said that this secret technique was created by an extremely powerful expert in the primordial era, the Ancient Emperor. It specialized in seizing other people's spiritual artifacts. In the primordial era, countless famous experts had their spiritual weapons stolen by the Ancient Emperor using the Ancient Emperor's art of seizing war. It was even said that the Ancient Emperor's seizing art of war could even seize an extreme Tao immortal weapon. Although it was not an immortal art, it was better than an immortal art. However, Chu Fengmian knew that the Ancient Emperor's art of seizing war had been lost not long after the Ancient Emperor's death. He didn't expect Lan Ming to know this secret technique. Lan Ming suddenly attacked and used the Ancient Emperor's art of war to seize the human emperor's halberd in Chu Fengmian's hand. In an instant, he almost succeeded. Fortunately, the emperor's jar had completely recognized Chu Fengmian as its master before this. This allowed Chu Fengmian's control over the emperor's jar to be far greater than before. Only then could he resist the Ancient Emperor's art of war. However, Chu Fengmian had also witnessed the terror of the Ancient Emperor's art of war. Chu Fengmian had obtained the fragments of the human emperor's jar bit by bit before condensing it. He didn't know how much effort he had put in. However, the Ancient Emperor's art of war could seize the human emperor's jar that Chu Fengmian had painstakingly obtained in an instant. It was no wonder that countless experts of the primordial era had taken action and destroyed this secret technique when the ancient emperor had died. Chu Fengmian would cry if he thought about how the spiritual weapon that he had painstakingly refined for hundreds or thousands of years had suddenly been seized by someone using the ancient emperor's art of war. This Lan Ming has also obtained countless shocking opportunities and fortuitous encounters. He even knows a secret technique like the ancient emperor's art of war. Once I kill him, all these opportunities and fortuitous encounters will be mine. Chu Fengmian's eyes were extremely cold. Suddenly, he showed weakness, and the human emperor's halberd flew out as if it was about to be seized by the ancient emperor's art of war. It's mine. This extreme, Tao, immortal weapon is mine. Lan Ming laughed heartily when he saw this. He chased after it and tried to grab the human emperor's halberd. However, at that moment, a dazzling light erupted from the human emperor's halberd. The light condensed on the tip of the halberd and blasted towards Lan Ming. Since Lan Ming wanted to seize the human emperor's halberd, Chu Fengmian would let him have a taste of the power of the human emperor's halberd. Even though the human emperor's halberd wasn't complete, the power it contained was still a disaster for sky humans and Fey celestials. Boom! Lan Ming originally thought that the ancient emperor's art of war he had executed was enough to seize the human emperor's halberd. However, he hadn't expected this to happen. The tip of the halberd struck his body mercilessly. A gash was cut open on the massive, mysterious whale's body by the tip of the halberd. This gash was hundreds of feet wide, and a copious amount of blood flowed out. Lan Ming was severely injured by this move. Dragon extermination. At the same time, a violent, destructive force descended from the sky and slammed into Lan Ming's body. Mad Dragon Emperor also seized this opportunity to attack. This attack caused Lan Ming's injuries to worsen. This violent, destructive force penetrated Lan Ming's body through the wound. In an instant, Lan Ming's aura became much more unstable. His strength was reduced to less than 1/10 of its original. Kill. Lan Ming was severely injured, and his strength was reduced to less than 10%. This was the best opportunity to kill Lan Ming. Chu Fengmian didn't hesitate at all. His figure flickered continuously, and both swords slashed towards Lan Ming. He wanted to eliminate the root of the problem and take this opportunity to kill Lan Ming. Boom! However, at this moment, a thunderous roar descended. At the same time, a bolt of tribulation lightning struck. The sky being tribulation had descended. At this most critical moment, Lan Ming's sky being tribulation had descended. Mad Dragon Emperor's expression changed abruptly as he roared at Chu Fengmian. Run! The sky being tribulation had descended. If Chu Fengmian was still entangled with Lan Ming, both of them would die. When the sky being tribulation descended, if there was more than one person within the range, the power that erupted was enough to destroy everything. The power of the heavenly Tao wasn't something that humans could contend against. There's always a way out. Boy, you can't kill me today. As long as you can't kill me, you'll die when I step into the sky being realm. Lan Ming seemed to have seen a ray of light when the sky being tribulation suddenly descended. Lan Ming looked at Chu Fengmian and laughed ferociously. I'll bring your friends, your family, and your women to you. I'll torture, ravage, and let you experience all the pain in the world. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guest House Mobile Edition. Chapter 1970. Lan Ming was a vengeful person. If he was allowed to live today, it would be a disaster. Take them away. I want to kill this man. Chu Fengmian was well aware of this. He glanced at Lan Ming and roared at the mad dragon emperor. Then, Chu Fengmian rushed towards Lan Ming without hesitation. He held the human emperor's halberd and slashed at Lan Ming. Lan Ming did not expect Chu Fengmian to be so crazy. He did not care about the Great Tribulation and wanted to kill him. He wanted to die together with him. Master, Mad Dragon Emperor looked at Chu Fengmian's crazy actions and hesitated. Go. This man is seriously injured. I can kill him alone. Chu Fengmian shouted angrily. Within the range of the Deva Tribulation, the more martial artists and demon immortals there were, the more powerful the Deva Tribulation would be. If there were only Chu Fengmian and Lan Ming, Chu Fengmian still had some ability to resist. Now that Lan Ming was seriously injured, Chu Fengmian could leave as long as he killed Lan Ming. After all, the target of the Great Tribulation was not Chu Fengmian. If Chu Fengmian left the area, the Great Tribulation would not chase after him. If Chu Fengmian killed Lan Ming, he could escape without a trace. Go! Mad Dragon Emperor understood Chu Fengmian's thoughts. He knew that it was useless for him to stay here. He grabbed the Princess of the Sea and Qi Yangshi and flew out of the desolate sea. Mad Dragon Emperor and the other two left the desolate sea. The Great Tribulation in the sky had indeed weakened a lot. Even so, this was far more powerful than the ordinary celestial being tribulation. It was much more terrifying than the heaven-defying tribulation that Chu Fengmian had experienced. Kill! Chu Fengmian knew that he had no way out. He suddenly rushed towards Lan Ming with the human emperor's halberd in his hand and used a halberd technique to slash at Lan Ming. The halberd of the human emperor was sharp and deadly. The human emperor's halberd had recognized Chu Fengmian as its master. Even if Chu Fengmian did not know any profound halberd techniques, a few of his moves were as profound as a heaven-class martial technique. Damn it, what are you doing? Do you want to perish together with me? Are you crazy? Lan Ming saw Chu Fengmian's figure rushing over and felt something was wrong. His expression changed. He had thought that once the Deva-human tribulation descended, Chu Fengmian and the Mad Dragon Emperor would have to retreat. Otherwise, when the Deva tribulation descended, whether it was him, Chu Fengmian, or the Mad Dragon Emperor, they would all perish together. He didn't expect Chu Fengmian to be so crazy. In order to kill him, Chu Fengmian was willing to risk the Deva tribulation to kill Lan Ming. Seeing Chu Fengmian rushing over, Lan Ming mobilized all his power and prepared to resist. However, he had already been seriously injured by the attack just now, leaving him with less than a tenth of his full strength. Furthermore, he had never guessed that Chu Fengmian would be so crazy as to risk his Deva tribulation to kill him. He was completely unprepared. The spiritual power that Lan Ming hurriedly gathered couldn't withstand the sharpness of the human emperor's halberd and was easily broken. The human emperor's halberd pierced through the body of the giant, profound whale. Suddenly, the giant, profound whale body that Lan Ming had transformed into exploded. The power of the profound whale bloodline in his body seemed to have been pushed to the extreme. At this moment, he couldn't maintain the profound whale body anymore and turned into a human. After all, Lan Ming hadn't cultivated the complete whale transformation technique. His transformation into a profound whale was forced by the profound whale bloodline in his body. He could only maintain it for a short period of time. After suffering such a serious injury, Lan Ming couldn't maintain the profound whale body anymore and returned to his human form. His power had also fallen to the lowest point, less than 1% of his peak state. Boom! Suddenly, a bolt of lightning descended from the sky. This bolt of lightning contained an extreme black color. The pitch-black lightning contained an endless amount of destructive power. The power contained within this thunderbolt was only extreme destruction. It was capable of destroying everything in the world. The day of tribulation had officially descended. Rolling thunderbolts suddenly fell. Hundreds of such destructive thunderbolts fell in an instant. Any one of these destructive thunderbolts could easily kill a half-step Deva realm martial artist or demon immortal. Hundreds of destructive thunderbolts fell at the same time. Even a Deva realm expert couldn't withstand it. The moment the destructive thunderbolts fell, Chu Fengyan felt a sense of danger. In an instant, the shadow of a giant divine tree appeared behind Chu Fengyan. Shadow of the divine tree. The divine tree in Chu Fengyan's body had grown and could form a shadow to protect Chu Fengyan. However, even the power of the divine tree was insignificant in front of the heavenly tribulation. Hundreds of destructive thunderbolts turned into a sharp sword in the air. A sword of destruction formed by thunderbolts slashed towards Chu Fengyan. Rumble. The arrival of the sword of destruction was simply going to destroy everything in the world. Chu Fengyan could feel that his body was on the verge of being destroyed. The divine tree's shadow only lasted for a few breaths of time before it exploded with a loud bang. The Deva tribulation was incomparably terrifying. In history, countless monstrous geniuses had died under the Deva tribulation. Moreover, Lan Ming had triggered the Deva tribulation this time. There were two people among the targets of the Deva tribulation, which increased the power of the Deva tribulation by several times. Immortal true body. I am immortal. Chu Fengyan roared. The tiny figures formed by the 129,600 immortal crystals in his body suddenly shattered. The 129,600 immortal crystals all merged into Chu Fengyan's body, pushing his physical strength to the extreme. Rumble. After destroying the shadow of the divine tree, the sword of destruction violently bombarded Chu Fengyan's body. The immortal crystals shook violently as if they couldn't bear the terrifying power. The power of the sword of destruction was much stronger than the attack of the waterfront sword Ocean Emperor that Chu Fengyan had fought before. Chu Fengyan's immortal true body had been reborn and reached a new level after being refined by the sorcerer god Chaotic Pill. The moment these 129,600 immortal crystals fused into Chu Fengyan's body, Chu Fengyan's fleshly body defense increased tenfold. However, Chu Fengyan still had a hard time resisting the sword of destruction. His physical body could be destroyed at any time. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guest House mobile version. Chapter 1971. However, even at such a critical moment, Chu Fengyan's eyes were still observing Lan Ming beside him. Chu Fengyan's goal was to kill Lan Ming. This was his ultimate goal. The celestial tribulation descended. Not only Chu Fengyan, but Lan Ming beside him was also killed by the sword of destruction. Compared to Chu Fengyan, Lan Ming was even more miserable. Lan Ming was already seriously injured, and now he was killed by the sword of destruction. His body had been destroyed dozens of times. Although an expert like Lan Ming could instantly reconstruct his body, even if it was destroyed, he would lose a part of his power every time his body was destroyed and reconstructed as long as he didn't condense an immortal true body. This was one disaster after another for Lan Ming. Lan Ming's body was once again destroyed and reconstructed by the sword of destruction. Chu Fengyan already felt that Lan Ming's power was already extremely weak. This is the opportunity. Kill. Chu Fengyan seized the opportunity and disregarded the sword of destruction's attack. He suddenly tore the space apart with the power of ancestor Tianlong. In an instant, Chu Fengyan arrived behind Lan Ming. The human emperor's halberd had disappeared from his hand and was replaced by a spiritual sword. Extremely strange sword. Tualuo. The sixth move of the 9 profound sword art. It was also the strangest sword move in the 9 mysterious sword technique. The sudden slash caught Lan Ming off guard. Lan Ming never dreamed that Chu Fengyan could actually attack him while blocking the sword of destruction. Boom! Lan Ming's body was instantly penetrated by the sword. The sword ruthlessly pierced Lan Ming's chest. At the same time, the countless sword intents behind Chu Fengyan condensed into the blade of the sword and penetrated Lan Ming's body. Bang! Countless sword chi wreaked havoc in Lan Ming's body. His body was instantly blown apart. However, for someone like Lan Ming, even if his body was blown apart, it couldn't be considered as killing him. Lan Ming's strength could already be considered a true celestial realm expert. For him, as long as there was still a drop of essence blood left, he could reconstruct his body and recover. Chu Fengyan was well aware of this. Chu Fengyan's left hand unleashed another sword light as he watched Lan Ming's body explode in the air and his essence blood splattered all over. Destroy. This sword light slashed towards the countless blood essences of Lan Ming in the air. He wanted to exterminate all the essence blood in Lan Ming's body and kill him completely. You want to kill me? Not so easy. Explode for me. Even if I die today, I'll drag you down with me. Lan Ming's shattered body suddenly condensed into human-sized figures and flew toward Chu Fengyan. These balls of essence blood suddenly exploded the moment they approached Chu Fengyan. Lan Ming had gone completely crazy. He knew that he couldn't save himself today, so he didn't plan to escape. Instead, he wanted to kill Chu Fengyan and perish with him. These balls of essence blood were the condensation of Lan Ming's life strength, but now they were going to explode to attack Chu Fengyan. You want to explode? Chu Fengyan saw Lan Ming's actions and knew that Lan Ming wanted to fight to the death. As long as he could entangle Chu Fengyan, the power of the celestial tribulation would be enough to annihilate Chu Fengyan. The power of the sword of destruction had just disappeared. Suddenly, more tribulation lightning began to condense in the tribulation clouds in the sky. Bolts of tribulation lightning filled with the power of destruction condensed in the sky. This time, the number was much more than before. There were thousands of bolts. There were so many tribulation lightning bolts that could be transformed into 10 bolts of destruction. There was no possibility of resisting 10 swords of destruction descending at the same time. He would probably die on the spot. Devour. Of course, Chu Fengyan wasn't alarmed. He watched as the blood essence flew toward him. Its power reached a peak. It was on the verge of exploding. Suddenly, he pushed the power of the heaven-devouring secret technique to its limit. Sky-devouring secret technique. Devour the heavens. An incomparably huge vortex appeared in front of Chu Fengyan. All of a sudden, Lan Ming's blood essence approached Chu Fengyan and didn't even have time to self-detonate before he felt an enormous attractive force and was devoured by the Sky Devourer secret technique. Once they were devoured by the Sky Devouring secret technique, the blood essences were no longer under Lan Ming's control. The connection was completely severed. The violent power gradually calmed down and turned into an incomparably pure power that poured into Chu Fengyan's body. Lan Ming had intended to explode his blood essences to fight to the death with Chu Fengyan. However, he hadn't expected that all of his blood essences would be devoured by Chu Fengyan and turned into Chu Fengyan's power. No! Lan Ming's face turned ashen when he saw this scene. He originally wanted to fight to the death. However, at that moment, his blood essence had instead benefited Chu Fengyan. It had become Chu Fengyan's power. Damn it! Damn it! Lan Ming was extremely furious. He wanted to make a final struggle, but the blood essences devoured by the Sky-Devouring secret technique were completely severed from him. They no longer belonged to him. Now, Lan Ming could only struggle at death's door. Die! Chu Fengyan didn't intend to give Lan Ming any chance. His sword light flashed, and the remaining blood essences of Lan Ming were completely destroyed. Lan Ming's aura disappeared from the world, proving that this peerless genius had fallen. Let's go. Chu Fengyan grabbed, and an empty ring fell from the sky into his palm. It was Lan Ming's empty ring. After grabbing Lan Ming's empty ring, Chu Fengmian didn't hesitate to fly out of the desolate sea. Great! The spiritual power contained in Lan Ming's blood essences is really terrifying. Chu Fengmian felt that only a part of the blood essences had been refined. The power in Chu Fengmian's body had already reached the peak. His realm could break through at any time. Chu Fengmian killed Lan Ming. The sky-devouring secret technique was continuously devouring Lan Ming's blood essences for Chu Fengmian's use. If this continued, Chu Fengmian could officially break through to the half-step celestial being realm. However, the most important thing now was to leave the range of the celestial being tribulation and avoid the pursuit of the tribulation thunder. Chu Fengmian transformed into Ancestor Tianlong. The speed of the escape light was extremely fast. In an instant, he arrived at the edge of the desolate sea. He had already escaped the range of the celestial being tribulation. However, just as Chu Fengmian was about to let out a sigh of relief, a thunderous rumble suddenly resounded. This caused Chu Fengmian's originally relaxed heart to once again tighten. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guest House Mobile Edition. Chapter 1972. Chu Fengmian raised his head and looked at the sky. The great tribulation of the Deva was now above Chu Fengmian's head. The great tribulation of the Deva was actually following Chu Fengmian. Thunderbolts of destruction were still condensing, ready to descend at any time. What's going on? Why is the great tribulation of the Deva chasing me? Chu Fengmian looked at the great tribulation of the Deva. He couldn't understand it for a moment. The great tribulation of the Deva should belong to Lan Ming. Now that Lan Ming was dead, the great tribulation of the Deva should gradually disperse. But now, not only did the great tribulation of the Deva not disperse, but it was also chasing after Chu Fengmian. It was as if it would not stop until Chu Fengmian was dead. This was simply beyond common sense. Chu Fengmian had read countless ancient books and seen countless records of the great tribulation of the Deva, but he had never seen such a strange thing. A variant of the heavens and earth. Could it be that the heavenly Tao doesn't tolerate me as a variant of the heavens and earth, so it wants to use the great tribulation of the Deva to kill me? In an instant, Chu Fengmian suddenly thought of something. A variant of the heavens and earth. Chu Fengmian had transcended the heaven-defying great tribulation of the heavens and earth. His body had integrated with the primordial qi and had become a variant of the heavens and earth. But this kind of variant of the heavens and earth was not tolerated by the heavenly Tao. Chu Fengmian originally thought that the heavenly Tao would only take action when he went to transcend the great tribulation of the Deva and seize the opportunity to kill him. But he didn't expect that this time, it actually used Lan Ming's great tribulation of the Deva to kill Chu Fengmian. Lan Ming was dead, but the power of the great tribulation of the Deva didn't decrease at all. Instead, it condensed more and more tribulation lightning. Countless tribulation lightning began to condense in the center of the tribulation cloud. Chu Fengmian glanced over and vaguely saw that the countless tribulation lightning had condensed into a total of 10 swords of destruction. A sword of destruction had almost destroyed Chu Fengmian's physical body. This time, a total of 10 swords of destruction had descended. This was simply not giving Chu Fengmian any chance to survive and wanted to kill Chu Fengmian. Damn it! In order to kill Lan Ming, Chu Fengmian had set up an extremely intricate plan that could be said to be flawless. However, he had never expected that the heavenly Tao would suddenly attack Chu Fengmian at this time. If it was an ordinary celestial tribulation, Chu Fengmian still had some possibility of resisting it. However, the Deva tribulation this time was triggered by Chu Fengmian and Lan Ming together. Its power was countless times stronger than an ordinary Deva tribulation. It was almost impossible for Chu Fengmian to resist the celestial tribulation. Dangerous, extremely dangerous. Chu Fengmian had killed Lan Ming, but the great celestial tribulation was much more dangerous than Lan Ming's. There was simply no chance of survival. The heavens want me dead, But now that I've become a mutant of heaven and earth, I have to defy the heavens. Chu Fengmian activated all his power at the same time. At this time, he also knew that no matter where he fled to, the Deva Tribulation would not let Chu Fengmian go. He might as well fight it out here. The power of the sky-devouring secret technique was activated to the extreme as it frantically refined Lan Ming's essence blood. Chu Fengmian's power had reached its peak in an instant. The power emanating from Chu Fengmian's body was enough to distort the surrounding world. Roar! Roar! The dragon roared, and the shadow of Primogenitor Tan Long also appeared behind Chu Fengmian. The shadow of the sky-devouring beast also condensed behind Chu Fengmian. His entire body turned into a huge vortex, a huge black hole. Chu Fengmian opened the empty ring, and suddenly countless immortal stones flew out. As soon as these immortal stones flew out, they were vaporized and turned into extremely pure immortal power that poured into the black hole, breaking through to the next realm. Chu Fengmian was in an extremely dangerous situation. He wanted to break through to the half-step celestial realm. Chu Fengmian had no chance of survival when these 10 swords of destruction descended. He had no ability to resist at all. At this time, his only hope was to break through to the next realm. As long as Chu Fengmian could successfully break through the realm and step into the half-step celestial being realm, Chu Fengmian's strength would rise countless times. At that time, it would be the only chance to resist the celestial being tribulation. Chu Fengmian originally wanted to leave the Songhai starfield after making all the necessary preparations to find a secret and safe place to break through to the next realm. However, at this time, he no longer had the ability to do so. Fortunately, Chu Fengmian had already accumulated a large amount of immortal stones and refined the lesser flying immortal pills. Chu Fengmian opened the empty ring, and the lesser flying immortal pills flew out and fell into the black hole vortex. They turned into pure medicinal power and poured into Chu Fengmian's body. More than 600 immortal stones and 19 lesser flying immortal pills were all devoured by the black hole vortex that Chu Fengmian had turned into. Boom! From the black hole vortex that Chu Fengmian had turned into, a tyrannical and boundless power was transmitted. This power condensed again and again and again, as if it wanted to break the shackles on Chu Fengmian's body and break through to a higher level. Chu Fengmian's power had reached an unprecedented level. As the immortal power merged into Chu Fengmian's body, Chu Fengmian's body was transforming. His whole person was sublimating. Boom! At this moment, in the tribulation clouds above the sky, the 10 swords of destruction had been condensed. The moment the 10 swords of destruction were condensed, they did not hesitate and slashed towards Chu Fengmian below. Chu Fengmian's breakthrough at this time was not allowed by the heavenly Tao. The swords of destruction were sent down to kill Chu Fengmian. Sword out. Chu Fengmian roared again and again. Both of his swords were sent out to block the 10 swords of destruction. The 10 swords of destruction slashed down together. Its power was 10 times more terrifying than the one that Chu Fengmian had blocked before. However, this time around, Chu Fengmian was no longer the same as before. After over 600 mortal stones and 19 small flying immortal pills were all assimilated into Chu Fengmian's body, Chu Fengmian's strength increased by countless times. Break for me! The sword intent of the sword god realm condensed on the edge of the sword. Chu Fengmian slashed out with both of his swords and fiercely slashed at the 2 swords of destruction. Rumble! A loud sound was heard. The collision of power had reached its peak. In an instant, it was enough to destroy countless times. But Chu Fengmian was not afraid at all. His sword swept down. Boom! The 2 swords of destruction were suddenly shattered. They were forcibly severed by Chu Fengmian's sword. At the same time, another incomparably huge shadow appeared behind Chu Fengmian. This shadow was an incomparably huge whale with 2 fins like wings. It was the innate divine beast, the ancestor of the sea clan, the black whale. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guesthouse Mobile Version. Chapter 1973. The dark whale phantom suddenly condensed behind Chu Fengmian. Boom! The power of the dark whale erupted from Chu Fengmian's body. Chu Fengmian condensed his second source, which originally contained the power of ancestor Tianlong, heaven-devouring beast, and Teng Shi. However, among these three powers, the power belonging to the soaring serpent was too weak and could not be condensed into a shadow. This time, as Chu Fengmian devoured Lan Ming's blood essence, the dark whale bloodline that belonged to Lan Ming's blood essence was also devoured and integrated into Chu Fengmian's bloodline. Lan Ming's dark whale bloodline had been plundered from countless disciples of the Lan family. It was already extremely pure. Chu Fengmian devoured all of Lan Ming's blood essence. The power of the dark whale was also condensed into Chu Fengmian's second source, turning into his own power. Although Chu Fengmian couldn't control the Sea Clan source like he could control the Dragon source and Heaven-devouring source, he could use the power of the dark whale. The condensed dark whale phantom appeared behind Chu Fengmian, supporting Chu Fengmian with the power of the dark whale. Chu Fengmian's power skyrocketed. Chu Fengmian's strength was increasing at every moment. Layers upon layers of shackles were forcibly broken by Chu Fengmian's strength. Chu Fengmian wanted to break everything. His power skyrocketed endlessly. His physical body, his sword Dao, the divine tree in his body, the power of his bloodline, and all his other powers were skyrocketing. This was not just an increase in power, but a comprehensive upgrade. The half-step celestial realm had the word celestial, which meant that after stepping into the half-step celestial realm, the changes were completely different from those in the Emperor realm. Boom! Boom! Above the sky, the countless thunderbolts in the celestial tribulation seemed to become angrier. The heavenly way didn't allow Chu Fengmian's realm to advance any further. The remaining 8 swords of destruction slashed down at Chu Fengmian at the same time. The violent power of destruction descended along with the swords of destruction, wanting to penetrate Chu Fengmian's body and destroy him completely. Want to stop me? No one can stop me, not even the heavenly way. I'm going against the heavens, and I'm not afraid of anything. No one can stop it. Chu Fengmian stood up and let out a long roar as he swung both swords. In an instant, tens of thousands of sword lights were unleashed, heading toward the remaining 8 swords of destruction in the sky. Crack! Crack! The destructive swords were all shattered by Chu Fengmian's sword. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's physical body was pushed to the extreme. He was not afraid in the face of the destructive power. Waves of spiritual power erupted from Chu Fengmian's body and turned into barriers to resist the erosion of the destructive power. At the center of all the destructive power, not even celestial realm cultivators could withstand it. Even the Mad Dragon Emperor, who was outside the desolate sea, could clearly feel the terrifying destructive power in the desolate sea. The descent of these destructive forces made him feel incomparably terrified. What the hell is going on? How could the celestial tribulation have such power? It said that the destructive swords only appear when geniuses go through the celestial tribulation. Now, there are so many of them. The celestial tribulation should have dissipated with Lan Ming's death. How could it still exist and become stronger? The Mad Dragon Emperor looked at the celestial tribulation in the desolate sea and was extremely shocked. Even with his experience, he could not figure out what had happened. This scene was beyond anyone's understanding. It was something that no one could understand. However, what made the Mad Dragon Emperor even more shocked was Chu Fengmian's power in the desolate sea. In the face of such a terrifying celestial tribulation, Chu Fengmian was still resisting it. Even his power was still rising. In a few moments, Chu Fengmian's aura was not below his. Even if Chu Fengmian had really broken through, he was only a half-step celestial realm. There was still a huge gap between him and the celestial realm. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had not really broken through to the half-step celestial realm. Chu Fengmian's power was still accumulating and rising bit by bit. It was far from reaching the limit. This simply scared the Mad Dragon Emperor to death. He had also seen countless monstrous geniuses, but these so-called monstrous geniuses were simply not worth mentioning when compared to Chu Fengmian. Even the monstrous geniuses recorded in the ancient books and left their names in the annals of history, could not compare to Chu Fengmian. Rumble. While the Mad Dragon Emperor was thinking, a more powerful spiritual energy fluctuation was transmitted from the desolate sea. Above the desolate sea, among the countless tribulation clouds, a huge thunderbolt was slowly condensing. This thunderbolt was extremely thick and contained much more violent power than the destructive swords. The thunder of destruction. How is it possible? Didn't this kind of apocalyptic thunder only appear during the great mysterious heaven tribulation? How could it appear at this time? The Mad Dragon Emperor trembled when he saw this huge thunderbolt. Just the aura it contained was enough to make him feel incomparably terrified. Once this thunderbolt descended, it would be the real end of the world. It was said that the thunder of destruction would only appear when a celestial realm expert broke through to the profound heaven realm. He did not expect it to appear this time. The thunder of destruction. This damnable heavens really wants to kill me. Chu Fengmian also felt that the thunder of destruction was hidden among the tribulation clouds. The obliteration thunderbolt was accumulating power. All the thunderbolts in the tribulation cloud were fusing into the obliteration thunderbolt. Chu Fengmian could see that this thunder of destruction was actually in an incomplete state. No matter how strong the tribulation lightning was, it could not condense the complete thunder of destruction. One should know that the power of a thunder of destruction was hundreds of times stronger than the sword of destruction. The thunder of destruction in the tribulation clouds should only be 1/10 of the power of the real thunder of destruction. However, even 1/10 was equivalent to the power of dozens of sword of destruction. Once it descended, even a celestial realm expert would be killed. Come, this thunder of destruction will be my help. It will help me step into the half-step celestial realm. Half-step celestial realm. Breakthrough for me. Chu Fengmian roared and suddenly grabbed Lan Ming's empty ring. He opened Lan Ming's empty ring, and 1,000 immortal stones flew out. There were more than 1,000 immortal stones in Lan Ming's empty ring. It was the accumulation of his life. In a chapter 1974, Chu Fengmian took out more than 1,000 immortal stones from the blue infernal sky ring. Like a small mountain, they flew directly into the black hole formed by Chu Fengmian's body and were all refined and devoured. 1,000 immortal stones. Even a celestial realm powerhouse might not have so much wealth. But this time, Chu Fengmian did not hesitate to devour and refine the 1,000 immortal stones, turning them into incomparably pure immortal power that poured into Chu Fengmian's body. 1,000 immortal stones were enough to help some half-step celestial realm martial artists and demon immortals step into the celestial realm. But now they were all being devoured by Chu Fengmian to advance to the half-step celestial realm. This kind of generosity was unimaginable. But now, Chu Fengmian had no time to hesitate. If Chu Fengmian couldn't withstand this thunder of destruction, he would die. By then, no amount of wealth would make any difference. The 1,000 immortal stones were refined by the power of the heaven-devouring secret technique and turned into pure immortal power that poured into Chu Fengmian's body. Such a huge amount of immortal power was simply going to fill Chu Fengmian to death. It could be said that any half-step celestial realm martial artist would be stuffed to death if they devoured 1,000 immortal stones in one breath. They had to refine the immortal stones one by one. But Chu Fengmian refined the 1,000 immortal stones in one breath at the same time. The tyrannical immortal power crashed wildly in Chu Fengmian's body, trying to smash it into pieces. Hold on, Chu Fengmian roared. Second origin, heaven-devouring beast. First ancestor, Tianlong. Xianjing, devour. Behind him, the heaven-devouring beast, first ancestor Tianlong, and Xianjing. These three incomparably huge phantoms were frantically absorbing the immortal power in Chu Fengmian's body. As more and more immortal power was absorbed, the power of these three phantoms also became more and more tyrannical. In an instant, Chu Fengmian's power reached the limit and stopped. The bottleneck of the 9 tribulations, Emperor Gu. Even though Chu Fengmian had swallowed so many immortal stones in one go, he still couldn't break through the bottleneck of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. In the eyes of others, this was simply an unbelievable sight. Even the bottleneck of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu could not be broken through by such immense power. However, Chu Fengyan was clear that he had encountered countless miraculous encounters and heaven-defying opportunities in his life. He had even overcome a heaven-defying tribulation, allowing his physical body to fuse with the primordial qi, allowing him to become a mutated species of the world. These various fortuitous encounters made Chu Fengyan powerful, but also became his bottleneck. Only when Chu Fengyan had all these fortuitous encounters would he be able to break through the bottleneck and officially break through. The second origin, promotion. Roar, roar, roar. 3 different beastly roars resounded from behind Chu Fengyan. The illusionary figures of the 3 innate godly beasts had absorbed a huge amount of immortal force. They had gathered their strength to the limit and unleashed it all of a sudden. As the roar echoed out, the surrounding heaven and earth began to tremble. The 3 pre-heaven god beasts were making a breakthrough. Chu Fengyan's second origin was the first to be promoted. Next was Chu Fengyan's physical body. His physical body was once again promoted. The divine tree in his body and the ancient swordsmanship books in Chu Fengyan's body were all promoted after absorbing immortal force. Every promotion made Chu Fengyan's strength a step further. There was only one part of Chu Fengyan's body that had yet to be promoted. The first origin. Chu Fengyan's first origin was his natal sword origin. It was the natal sword origin condensed from the power of creation. The natal sword origin was the core of a sword cultivator. Although Chu Fengyan had encountered countless fortuitous encounters, he was ultimately a sword cultivator. Chu Fengyan's natal sword origin was condensed from the power of creation. What he lacked now was neither spiritual nor immortal force, but the power of creation. There was only one way to obtain the power of creation: heavenly tribulation. Chu Fengyan raised his head and looked at the sky. The power of heavenly tribulation was the power of creation. Whether it was the sword of destruction or the thunder of annihilation, the core of their power was the power of creation. Chu Fengyan's gaze penetrated the tribulation clouds and could clearly see the power of creation contained within the thunder of annihilation. You want to destroy the world? Then I'll destroy you first. Chu Fengyan looked at the thunder of annihilation. In an instant, Chu Fengyan's body moved. His figure rushed into the 9th heaven and rushed towards the thunder of annihilation. Shocking sword intent condensed on the blade of Chu Fengyan's sword. The moment Chu Fengyan drew his sword blade was about to tear the sky apart. The sword that split the sky was aimed at the countless tribulation clouds in the sky. The thunder of annihilation was accumulating power to destroy Chu Fengyan. Today, Chu Fengyan was going to destroy the thunder of annihilation and devour its power to promote his natal sword origin. Chu Fengyan's sword blade cut through the layers of tribulation clouds. Chu Fengyan's figure rushed into the tribulation clouds in an instant. This scene was simply crazy to the extreme. In the face of the celestial tribulation and the thunder of annihilation, Chu Fengyan chose not to resist, but to take the initiative to attack. Since ancient times, in the face of heavenly tribulation, the only way was to resist it. But now, Chu Fengyan was going to break the tribulation lightning and devour it. This action was incomparably crazy. Rumble. The world-exterminating thunder let out thunderous booms that were enough to make people faint. It seemed to be filled with boundless anger as it suddenly bombarded Chu Fengyan, wanting to kill him completely. Edited by Lifer, Finger Fox. The world-exterminating thunder descended. The mighty thunderbolts were like a long river. This long river was filled with calamity thunder. Wherever the thunderbolts passed, all living things would be destroyed. No wonder it was called the world-exterminating thunder. Chu Fengyan was drawn into the center of the thunder of annihilation. In an instant, Chu Fengyan's body was about to be destroyed by the destructive power. Bam, 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 bam. A series of sounds came from Chu Fengyan's body. His physical body, his immortal true body, and the 129,600 immortal crystals in it were even broken by the destructive power. Even if the physical body of a demon god warrior with an immortal true body was destroyed, the 129,600 immortal crystals could not be damaged. This was also the reason why the immortal true body was called immortal. As long as the immortal crystals were still there, even if the physical body was destroyed many times, it could be rebuilt. But now, the immortal true body was broken. If this continued, the immortal true body condensed by Chu Fengmian might be destroyed. The immortal true body was not really immortal. It would still be destroyed by the thunder of annihilation. In a chapter 1975, bolts of lightning destroyed the immortal crystals and poured into Chu Fengmian's body, destroying it. Chu Fengmian could feel that his immortal true body was about to be destroyed by the apocalyptic lightning. At this moment, Chu Fengmian's mind was extremely calm. Inside his body, the heaven-devouring force was boiling. The heaven-devouring shadow and Chu Fengmian merged into one. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian's body moved. His body became hundreds or thousands of times larger than before. His heaven-devouring origin. At this moment, his comprehension of the Tao of heaven-devouring had reached a whole new level. I am a heaven-devourer, devouring eternity. So what if it's tribulation lightning? So what if it's the heavenly Tao? The moment the heaven-devouring force enveloped Chu Fengmian's body, he suddenly transformed into a heaven-devouring beast and roared crazily. This roar shook the heavens and earth. Many creatures trembled when they heard this roar. The fear contained in their ancient bloodline was awakened. It was as if the real heaven-devouring beast had been awakened. The huge heaven-devouring beast opened its mouth like a bottomless black hole. Countless tribulation lightning were devoured by it. In the deepest part of the black hole, a 7-inch spiritual sword suddenly condensed. All the tribulation lightning that was devoured by the black hole was absorbed by the 7-inch spiritual sword. This 7-inch spiritual sword was Chu Fengmian's natal sword origin. It was the sword of creation formed by the power of creation. The tribulation lightning's power, even if it contained the power to destroy the world, belonged to the power of creation after all. Bolts of tribulation lightning were devoured by the 7-inch spiritual sword and condensed into ancient patterns on the sword's body. Boom! A loud sound suddenly resounded. With Chu Fengmian as the center, a powerful spiritual energy suddenly erupted and swept across everything. Chu Fengmian transformed from the heaven-devouring beast into his true body. At the same time, in the center of the black hole, after absorbing countless tribulation lightning, the sword of creation's power had also condensed to the extreme. In the next moment, it underwent a transformation. This spiritual energy was the power of creation. The power of creation burst out from Chu Fengmian's body and impacted everything around him. Countless tribulation lightning that approached Chu Fengmian's body exploded under the impact of the power of creation. Chu Fengmian's aura rose steadily. His momentum was to penetrate everything. Suddenly, it seemed that the shackles that had been binding Chu Fengmian were broken. The bottleneck of the 9 tribulations, Emperor Gu, was finally broken. The upgrade of the Sword of Creation had finally allowed Chu Fengmian to break through the bottleneck of the 9 tribulation Ancient Emperor. His realm's tribulation realm. His spiritual swords of the realm of creation had had to creation of creation of creation of creation of creation of creation. The tribulations is his tribulations. The tribulation to be, to the tribulation, to tribulation, tribulation, to tribulation. His realm was his tribulation was realms. Was realm to reaches reach realm. It's to break through to me. Chu Fengmian was extremely excited when he felt the surging power in his body. He had been trapped in the realm of 9 tribulations Emperor Gu for a long time. Even though he had obtained countless opportunities, he could not break through. Now, with the help of the thunder of annihilation, the immortal stones Chu Fengmian had accumulated and countless opportunities, he finally broke through the Emperor realm and stepped into the half-step celestial realm. Once he stepped into the half-step celestial realm, Chu Fengmian would be on the path of celestial beings. He would be separated from the mortals. He was half a step into the immortal gate. At this moment, Chu Fengmian's hard work and the opportunities he had obtained had paid off. His strength, his swordsmanship, his body, and his source had all undergone earth-shaking changes. Chu Fengmian even vaguely felt that with the improvement of his realm, the countless opportunities he had obtained had undergone new changes. Chu Fengmian had obtained countless heaven-defying opportunities. Whether it was the immortal real body or the swordsmanship in the sword principle totem, these things were beyond the comprehension of Emperor Realm, especially the incomplete swordsmanship in the sword principle totem. After stepping into the half-step celestial realm, Chu Fengmian's comprehension of the sword principle had improved. He could vaguely see that there were more secrets hidden in this incomplete swordsmanship. After stepping into the half-step celestial realm, Chu Fengmian's strength had not only changed, but also his whole body and mind had been promoted. Thunder of Annihilation. Chu Fengmian suddenly opened his eyes. Looking at the river of thunder of annihilation around him, he suddenly unsheathed his spirit sword. This sword seemed to contain the sword intent of Chu Fengmian's sword god realm, the power of the three innate divine beasts, and the power of fortune in his natal sword spirit. All these were condensed in this sword light. Boom! As the tip of Chu Fengmian's sword fell, the sword light swept across the surroundings and collided with the world-extinguishing thunder. Boom! Under this sword light, the thunder of annihilation was shattered. Countless tribulation thunderbolts were all scattered. The power of this sword had forcibly shattered the thunder of annihilation. Looking at the countless drifting tribulation thunderbolts, Chu Fengmian suddenly opened his mouth. The power of the sky-devouring secret technique was pushed to the extreme, and an incomparably huge vortex condensed. Countless tribulation thunderbolts were devoured by the sky-devouring secret technique, transformed into the power of fortune, and integrated into Chu Fengmian's natal sword spirit. After devouring countless tribulation thunderbolts, the 7-inch natal sword spirit grew a little bigger and became 9 inches in size. Its appearance did not change much, but the power of fortune it contained had really increased by several times. This time, the thunder of annihilation did not destroy Chu Fengmian. Instead, it helped Chu Fengmian step into the half-step celestial realm. Restore! Chu Fengmian shouted. In his body, there were still balls of immortal power left, and they all poured into the broken immortal crystals. All the immortal crystals that had been shattered by the thunder of annihilation were all reformed after absorbing a large amount of immortal power. This newly condensed immortal crystal was much tougher than before it was shattered. The immortal crystals in Chu Fengmian's body had been condensed by absorbing spiritual power. This time, the reformed immortal crystals had absorbed the immortal power contained in the immortal stones. The power of the condensed immortal crystals was naturally much stronger. The quality of the power contained in immortal power was far above spiritual power. Compared to immortal power, the difference was like heaven and earth. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guesthouse Mobile Edition. Chapter 1976. If Chu Fengmian could recondense all the immortal crystals with immortal power, his immortal true body would be twice as strong. However, Chu Fengmian couldn't do that now. Reconstructing all the immortal crystals that had been destroyed by the apocalyptic thunder had consumed all of Chu Fengmian's remaining immortal power. Chu Fengmian would need at least thousands of immortal stones to recondense the rest of the immortal crystals with immortal power. This was an astronomical figure. Lan Ming had only accumulated about 1,000 immortal stones in his entire life. It was almost impossible to get a large number of immortal stones. Although it was impossible for his immortal true body to transform again in a short period of time, this breakthrough had brought Chu Fengmian unparalleled great benefits. The increase in strength was the most important of all the benefits Chu Fengmian had gained. Chu Fengmian had crossed 2 realms to fight against the celestial realm expert as Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations. Even Chu Fengmian's swordsmanship, physical body, and so on were not inferior to a celestial realm expert. However, the gap in strength couldn't be made up for, So Chu Fengmian couldn't compete with a real Celestial Realm expert. He could defeat Lan Ming because Lan Ming wasn't a real Celestial Realm expert after all. No matter how close Lan Ming was to the Celestial Realm, he hadn't broken through yet. The power borrowed from the whale transformation art wasn't Lan Ming's own power. With the help of the Mad Dragon Emperor, Chu Fengmian was able to severely injure Lan Ming in one blow. But now, Chu Fengmian had truly stepped into the half-step Celestial Realm. He was only one realm away from the Celestial Realm. Chu Fengmian's countless opportunities and his swordsmanship were enough to make up for one realm. Moreover, Chu Fengmian's strength was no less than a Celestial Realm expert now. If Chu Fengmian fought with Lan Ming again, he could kill Lan Ming within 10 moves without the help of the Mad Dragon Emperor this time. This was the tyrannical power of strength. Chu Fengmian was even confident that he could defeat or even kill a Celestial Realm expert, such as the Emperor of the Waterfront Sword Sea that he had encountered before. Of course, there were strong and weak Celestial Realm experts. For example, the Celestial Realm was actually divided into 3 levels, which corresponded to the 3 titles of the 9 levels of Immortal: Immortal, Immortal Warrior, and Immortal General. The Emperor of the Waterfront Sword Sea and the Mad Dragon Emperor were both in the Celestial Realm. Celestial Realm was able to control over the Celestial Realm experts. It was able to turn it into martial arts techniques to destroy enemies and use secret techniques to suppress enemies. This kind of art of thought was enough to give demon gods of the Celestial Realm an absolute advantage when facing those below the Celestial Realm. Above Celestial Realm experts were Immortal Warriors. Chu Fengmian had never seen an Immortal Warrior before, but he could sense that there were indeed people who surpassed the Immortal Realm in the Sea Sacrifice sect. The Emperor of was at least celestial, a Celestial Warrior. Realm of Celestial Realms Immortals. Celestial body, and Immortal Bones. Once one stepped into the Immortal Warrior realm, one would be able to transform one's physical body into an immortal body and immortal bones. SS. The last realm of Celestial Realm, the Immortal General Realm, was the last step to transcend mortality and become an immortal. Stepping into the Immortal General Realm was enough to convert all of one's spiritual power into immortal power. Only Celestial Generals could be called true immortals. Celestials and Immortal Warriors could only be regarded as false immortals. Stepping into the Immortal General Realm meant that one had immortal bones and immortal power. They were true immortals. Their strength could also crush Immortal Warriors. The difference between Immortal Warriors and Celestials wasn't big. It was just the physical changes. Now that Chu Fengmian had condensed his immortal true body, his physical body was stronger than Immortal Warriors. Therefore, Chu Fengmian had the ability to fight Immortal Warriors. But if he encountered Immortal Generals, Chu Fengmian could only run away. He couldn't fight them head-on. Of course, if Chu Fengmian really stepped into the Celestial Realm, his strength would increase tremendously. At that time, Chu Fengmian would even be able to fight against an Immortal General Realm expert. However, stepping into the Celestial Realm was still too far away. This time, Chu Fengmian used up a lot of his savings to break through to the half-step Celestial Realm. In the end, he even killed Lan Ming and obtained 1,000 Immortal Stones that Lan Ming had accumulated for a long time. The difficulty of stepping into the Celestial Realm was far greater than the difficulty of breaking through to the half-step Celestial Realm. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was going to break through to the Celestial Realm. At that time, Chu Fengmian would have to face his own Celestial Tribulation. This time, Chu Fengmian faced Lan Ming's Celestial Tribulation. Even the thunder of annihilation descended to kill Chu Fengmian. If Chu Fengmian triggered the Celestial Tribulation himself, it would be more powerful than this. Chu Fengmian had to be fully prepared. If he rashly broke through to the Celestial Realm, once the Celestial Tribulation descended, Chu Fengmian would face not only failure to break through to the Celestial Realm, but also death under the Celestial Tribulation. However, now that Chu Fengmian had stepped into the half-step Celestial Realm, he had broken through the bottleneck of his strength. As long as he had the opportunity, Chu Fengmian could still improve his strength. He was not in a hurry to break through to the celestial realm. He took advantage of this time to consolidate his strength and obtain more opportunities. This was the safest plan. The thunder of tribulation was completely devoured by the sky-devouring secret technique. The calamity clouds that had been shrouding the desolate sea gradually dispersed. At the same time, the terrifying destructive force dissipated as well. Master, after the celestial tribulation dispersed, the mad dragon emperor hurried over. The moment he saw Chu Fengmian, his throat seemed to be stuck by something, and he could not speak. This was because he already felt that the aura emitted from Chu Fengmian's body was not inferior to his. This was Chu Fengmian's strength, which was restrained. If Chu Fengmian used his full strength, his strength would even surpass him. A martial artist who had just stepped into the half-step celestial realm was actually stronger than the celestial realm. The mad dragon emperor looked at Chu Fengmian, somewhat speechless. Congratulations on breaking through to the next realm, Master. The Princess of the Sea was the first to react and congratulated. Congratulations, Master. Master Chiang also hurriedly said, It's finally done. Chu Fengmian also sighed, although it was very simple to say now. Only Chu Fengmian knew how difficult it was to break through to the half-step celestial realm this time. It could be said that no one had done such a crazy thing to break through to the next realm during the celestial tribulation. Chu Fengmian had no choice but to risk his life and finally succeeded. Chapter 1977. Time and time again, he would be doomed if he wasn't careful enough. He would be reborn after the tribulation. Although the Great Tribulation was extremely dangerous, Chu Fengmian had used the Great Tribulation to upgrade his natal sword origin and break through to the next realm. But it was a blessing in disguise. Although Chu Fengmian had experienced countless battles of life and death, and each breakthrough was extremely dangerous, the danger this time was far greater than any of the previous times. It could be said that he had found the last bit of hope in a hopeless situation. Master, you're not inferior to a celestial realm expert this time. Such strength is really a legend since ancient times. Mad Dragon Emperor only reacted now and sighed. Chu Fengmian's current achievement was comparable to many of the legendary geniuses. He was on the same level as the 9 mystic celestial sovereign. The most terrifying thing about Chu Fengmian wasn't his current strength, but his future. Chu Fengmian's Sword Dao had reached the peak, almost comprehending the origin of Sword Dao. He had also gone through the Great Tribulation and integrated the Genesis Qi into his body. It could be said that Chu Fengmian's future achievement might be higher than the 9 mystic celestial sovereign. The 9 mystic celestial sovereign was also called a legend because he became an immortal sovereign. If he died midway, he would also be unknown. Chu Fengmian couldn't help but sigh. In history, there were geniuses comparable to the 9 mystic celestial sovereign, but if they died midway, they wouldn't leave any records. If any genius fell midway, they would be forgotten in at most 10,000 years. Only when one became a peerless expert could his name be passed down forever. Chu Fengmian's master, the master of Sword Dao, was an immortal emperor, but he still fell. Chu Fengmian's strength was just a little bigger than an ant compared to the master of Sword Dao. Chu Fengmian also understood that the world was vast, and flying far away wasn't as simple as he thought. Coming to the Sanhai star domain was an eye-opener for Chu Fengmian. The Daluo star domain was just a small place compared to the Sanhai star domain. There were 3 sacred domains above the Sanhai star domain. These 3 sacred domains were 1,000 times stronger than the Sanhai star domain. If Chu Fengmian hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have imagined how strong they were. But now that Chu Fengmian had stepped into the half-celestial realm, his strength was comparable to the celestial realms. Even among the 3 sacred regions, celestial realm experts were extremely rare. Lan Ming, what's your plan? Fengmian's asked. Lan Fengmian's immortal assessed to the Sanhai S's. TSS assessed. SSSS. SSSS to sits to S. We are preparing to leave the vast sea star system and return to the Daluocean star system. The Princess of the Sea pondered for a moment before replying. The Lan family had been destroyed, and there was nothing left in the Songhai Star Zone that was worth her nostalgia. As for Qi Yang, he would follow the Princess of the Sea and serve her. We can return to the heaven, but it's too dangerous for the two of you to act rashly. Dragon Emperor, can you help me send them back? Chu Fengmian looked at the mad Dragon Emperor and asked, Don't worry, I'll send the two of you back to the heaven. The mad Dragon Emperor immediately agreed. To him, this was as easy as lifting a finger. Master, you don't plan to leave? The Princess of the Sea looked at Chu Fengmian and asked. She knew that Chu Fengmian had established his sword sect in the heaven. Chu Fengmian couldn't stay in the Songhai Star Domain for long. I still have some things to do in the Songhai Star Domain. Although I've broken through, I'm not done with my business. Chu Fengmian said. He came to the Songhai Star Domain to collect immortal stones to break through to the half-celestial realm. Chu Fengmian had completed this goal. His second goal was to fulfill his promise to the Princess of the Sea and kill Lan Ming. However, Chu Fengmian hadn't completed his third goal, which was to obtain a large amount of glazed clean water. He needed a large amount of glazed clean water to dissolve the demonic will in the primordial sword body and Demon Emperor Blood Demon's heart. Chu Fengmian had to sneak into the Sea Sacrifice Sect sacrificial lake to obtain a large amount of glazed clean water. Chu Fengmian planned to kill Lan Ming, to fulfill his promise to the Princess of the Sea, and to use Lan Ming's identity to sneak into the sacrificial lake. As an elder of the sacrificial pavilion, Lan Ming was one of the few elders qualified to enter the sacrificial lake. Now that Lan Ming was dead, Chu Fengmian could disguise himself as Lan Ming and enter the sacrificial lake to obtain the glazed clean water. This was the best opportunity to obtain the glazed clean water. Chu Fengmian wouldn't let it go. Let's part ways here. Chu Fengmian glanced at the crowd and flew toward the Sea Sacrifice Sect in a flash. At the same time, he changed his appearance to Lan Ming's. Lan Ming's power and cultivation techniques were based on the Black Whale bloodline. It was almost impossible for an outsider to disguise himself as Lan Ming. After all, it was almost impossible to obtain the Black Whale bloodline. Lan Ming had almost killed all the disciples of the Lan family to obtain such a bloodline. However, Chu Fengmian had devoured Lan Ming's essence blood and integrated the Black Whale bloodline into his own bloodline. It could be said that he was no different from the real Lan Ming's power. Chu Fengmian concealed all the remaining power in his body, leaving only the blood of the Black Whale. Now that Chu Fengmian had broken through the realm, his appearance had changed. Even the cultivators in the celestial realm would have a hard time recognizing him. Even the sky-human realm ancestors of the Sea Sacrifice Sect couldn't detect the difference between Chu Fengmian and Lan Ming. Chu Fengmian's figure flickered and returned to the Sea Sacrifice Sect in less than half a day. With Lan Ming's status as an elder of the Sea Sacrifice Sect, almost no one dared to question or check his identity. After returning to the Sea Sacrifice Sect, Chu Fengmian didn't return to the sacrificial pavilion. Instead, he flew directly to the temple in the center of the lake. Although there was a treasury in the sacrificial pavilion, all the good things in the sacrificial pavilion had already been taken away by Lan Ming. Chu Fengmian had obtained Lan Ming's spatial ring, so the sacrificial pavilion's treasury was dispensable to Chu Fengmian. The glazed clean water in the sacrificial lake was what Chu Fengmian needed the most now. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guest House Mobile Edition. Chapter 1978. The temple at the center of the Sea Sacrifice Sect had always been a sacred place and forbidden area. It was an incomparably mysterious existence, even to the elders of the Sea Sacrifice Sect. Chu Fengmian had killed Lan Ming and obtained his memories. However, Lan Ming didn't know much about the sacrificial lake. He had never been to the true depths of the sacrificial lake. However, Chu Fengmian could use Lan Ming's identity to enter the sacrificial lake and use the aura of the colored glazed pure water to search for it. Lan Ming, why did you come to the sacrificial lake? Didn't you find the remaining members of the Lan family and hunt them down? Chu Fengmian had just arrived at the entrance of the temple when a voice suddenly resounded. Chu Fengmian immediately searched Lan Ming's memories and found out the identity of the person who had spoken. The owner of the voice was the elder in charge of guarding the sacrificial lake. It was said that the elder's strength was unfathomable. He had already stepped into the sky realm. He was called an elder to make up for his external appearance. In fact, he was an ancestor-level powerhouse of the sky realm. However, this guardian elder called Chu Fengmian as Lan Ming, which meant that he didn't see through Chu Fengmian's identity. Chu Fengmian's current disguise was indeed something that even a sky realm powerhouse couldn't see through. Guardian Elder, I have already killed the remaining members of the Lan family. Now I'm going to the sacrificial lake to break through. Chu Fengmian's mind stirred as he spoke. Chu Fengmian's tone was exactly the same as Lan Ming's. There was a hint of anxiety in his tone. The sacrificial lake was the sacred place of the Sea Sacrifice sect. There were many treasures that could help in breaking through. Therefore, many disciples of the Sea Sacrifice sect would go to the sacrificial lake to break through. As Chu Fengmian spoke, he also urged some of the power in his body. It seemed that he could no longer suppress his cultivation and could break through at any time. Are you going to break through? The guardian elder exclaimed in surprise. Suddenly, his gaze fell on Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian knew that this was the guardian elder's investigation. Even if Lan Ming was qualified to enter a place like the sacrificial lake, he still needed to check his identity every time he entered. Only after confirming that there was no mistake would he be allowed to enter. After all, the sacrificial lake hid countless secrets. People couldn't easily enter it. The power of the Xian whale. Cover up. Chu Fengmian quietly activated the power of the profound whale's bloodline, concealing all other powers. The guardian elder examined Chu Fengmian for a while before retracting his gaze. Chu Fengmian knew that he had passed the test. That's right. Now that you've broken through, our Sea Sacrifice sect will have another Ocean Emperor. However, you have to remember that the Sea Sacrifice sect spent a lot of effort to nurture you. Once you become the Ocean Emperor, you have to do more for the Sea Sacrifice sect. Do you understand? The guardian elder said. Lan Ming knows. Chu Fengmian hurriedly replied. Go in. After the guardian elder said that, his voice disappeared. Chu Feng's expression did not change as he stepped into the temple. The sacrificial lake, which contained the colored glaze pure water, was located at the center of the temple. Chu Fengmian stepped into the temple and felt a surge of pure water, spiritual energy. The temple was filled with countless water, spiritual energy. This water spiritual energy was extremely beneficial to the Sea Clan and even the martial artists and Yao gods who cultivated the Tao of the Sea Clan. One day of cultivation in the temple was equivalent to a year of cultivation outside. It was no wonder that the temple was called a sacred place. Once a disciple of the Sea Sacrifice sect cultivated in the temple, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. However, Chu Fengmian only had one purpose in sneaking into the temple, and that was for the colored glaze, pure water. Although there weren't many experts in the temple, there were always experts like the guardian elder who observed the inside of the temple. If Chu Fengmian acted rashly, it was very likely that his identity would be exposed. Since he could sneak into the sacrificial lake, Chu Fengmian couldn't act rashly, lest he lose this opportunity. There is only one chance to disguise himself as Lan Ming and sneak into the temple. Chu Fengmian had to be extremely cautious. Chu Fengmian went all the way to a secret chamber in the depths of the temple and cultivated in seclusion. It seemed that he really came to the temple to break through his realm. However, Chu Fengmian secretly separated a part of his spiritual awareness to explore all kinds of things in the temple, exploring the depths of the temple. The temple was much bigger than it looked from the outside, as if it was a world of its own. There were restrictions and formations everywhere in the temple. Many of them were well hidden. Even Chu Fengmian had almost touched them by accident. He had to be very careful when he was probing. Moreover, Chu Fengmian also felt that there were several terrifying auras in the temple, constantly monitoring the temple. Among these auras, 3 of them made Chu Fengmian extremely fearful and felt a sense of danger. For Chu Fengmian, only celestial realm experts could make him feel threatened. There were actually 3 celestial realm experts hidden in the temple. The sea sacrifice sect is really terrifying. There are 3 celestial realm experts in the temple. How many ocean emperors are there in total? Chu Fengmian was shocked by the strength of the sea sacrifice sect. The Sea Sword sect, one of the 3 major forces in the Songhai Star Zone, was not even worthy of carrying the shoes of the sea sacrifice sect. The outside world only knew that there were 2 ocean emperors in the sea sacrifice sect. But now it seemed that there were 3 ocean emperors in the temple, and these 3 were not Donglin ocean emperors or worshipping ocean emperors. It seemed that there were as many as 5 celestial realm ocean emperors in the sea sacrifice sect. There might even be more than 5 celestial realm ocean emperors. It's almost impossible to make a move. What should I do? While exploring, Chu Fengmian couldn't help but think about how to avoid the detection of the 3 celestial realm experts and sneak into the depths of the sacrificial lake. There were countless restrictions in the depths of the sacrificial lake. Even with Chu Fengmian's spiritual consciousness, he didn't dare to pass through those restrictions. What should I do? Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered. While he was thinking, a bell suddenly rang, resounding through the world. The bell rang throughout the entire sea sacrifice sect. Even Chu Fengmian, who was in the depths of the temple, could hear it clearly. What's going on? The moment Chu Fengmian heard the bell, he couldn't help but use his spiritual consciousness to explore and hear the conversation of several figures in the temple. It's the Ocean Emperor Ancestor. The Ocean Emperor Ancestor has come out of seclusion. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guest House Mobile Edition. Chapter 1979. Ocean Emperor Worship has come out. Seal the temple. Let's pay our respects to the ancestor. But Lan Ming is still in the temple. Don't worry about him. He's in seclusion and won't wake up for a while. Let's seal the temple and prevent outsiders from entering. Okay, seal the temple and let's pay our respects to the ancestor. The figures chatted for a while. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian sensed that many of the hidden restrictions in the temple were activated. The ancient door of the divine temple was closed. Soon after, the few figures left the divine temple one after another. Good. Ocean Emperor Worship has come out at this time. Chu Fengmian was overjoyed. Ocean Emperor Worship had come out, and all the experts in the temple went to pay their respects to him. Now, only Chu Fengmian was left in the temple. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The sacrificial lake was heavily guarded, but now that Ocean Emperor Worship had come out, all the experts in the temple went to pay their respects. This was the weakest opportunity. Without the guards, the restrictions in the temple could not stop Chu Fengmian. Let's go. Let's go to the sacrificial lake. Chu Fengmian stood up without hesitation and rushed to the sacrificial lake. Chu Fengmian's speed was extremely fast. He crossed 100 miles and flew to the depths of the temple. Chu Fengmian felt that the azure glaze purified water was in the center of the temple. In the temple, all the restrictive formations were activated. It was like an iron bastion, so that even the celestial realm experts could not break in. This was also the reason why the experts in the temple could pay their respects to Ocean Emperor Worship without worry. However, these restrictions and formations could stop celestial realm experts, but they could not stop Chu Fengmian. As Chu Fengmian flew towards the depths of the temple, the power of the sky-devouring secret technique was activated in his palm. The power of the sky-devouring secret technique condensed in Chu Fengmian's palm and turned into a small black hole. However, this small black hole had the power to devour the heavens. 90% of the power of all the restrictive array formations was easily devoured by the sky-devouring mystic technique. Chu Fengmian didn't destroy the formation. Instead, he used the heaven-devouring secret technique to weaken the formation so that he could pass through. In this way, even the people who had set up these restrictive formations would not be able to detect them in a short period of time. What Chu Fengmian had done could be said to be flawless. I wonder what's hidden in the sacrificial lake. With such tight security, there's definitely a hidden treasure. Chu Fengmian thought as he flew towards the center of the temple. Chu Fengmian didn't know how many restrictions and formations Chu Fengmian had already surpassed. These layers of defense made Chu Fengmian incomparably amazed. Even if it was a celestial realm elite who dared to barge into this divine temple, he was afraid that there would be no chance of survival. The power of many restrictive formations was unbearable even for celestial realm experts. Only Chu Fengmian, who had the sky-devouring origin, could use the sky-devouring secret technique to silently reduce the power of these restrictive formations. That was why he could come here step by step. However, Chu Fengmian didn't dare to waste time. Once the experts in the divine temple finished paying their respects to the Ocean Emperor, they would return. Chu Fengmian had to enter the sacrificial lake and obtain the color-glazed clean water before these people. Chu Fengmian's figure flickered again and again. Finally, he arrived at the deepest part of the divine temple. In front of Chu Fengmian, an ancient gate blocked his way. A complete and complex formation was set up on the gate. At a glance, there were at least 10,000 formation eyes on the formation. It was the great ultimate formation. Even a celestial realm expert couldn't break this great ultimate formation. At least several celestial realm experts were required to join forces to break it. Great ultimate formation. Behind this gate, it should be the sacrificial lake. Chu Fengmian couldn't help but think when he saw the great ultimate formation on the gate. If such a powerful formation was set up on the gate, it could only be the sacrificial lake behind this ancient gate. Sky-devouring secret technique, split into thousands, devour. With a thought, the black hole formed by the sky-devouring power in Chu Fengmian's palm suddenly split into 10,000 vortexes and flew towards the 10,000 formation eyes on the great ultimate formation. The power of the sky-devouring secret technique was fully activated. The power of the 10,000 formation eyes was devoured together. The great thing about the great ultimate formation was that even if one of the formation eyes was broken, it would be meaningless. The 10,000 formation eyes were both one and not one. As long as any of the formation eyes remained on the great ultimate formation, it would be impossible to break the great ultimate formation. Only by breaking the 10,000 formation eyes of the 10,000 extinction great formation at the same time could the 10,000 extinction great formation be broken. It was precisely because of this that even a celestial realm expert might not be able to break the great ultimate formation by himself. At the very least, several celestial realm experts would need to join forces to break the great ultimate formation. However, now that Chu Fengmian had activated the sky-devouring secret technique, the power of the 10,000 formation eyes was completely wiped out. It took an hour for the power of each of the 10,000 formation eyes to be completely devoured, weakening 99% of their power. They're back so soon. At the same time, Chu Fengmian sensed that a few figures had returned from outside the temple. Chu Fengmian had been paying attention to the outside of the temple with a part of his spiritual consciousness. He did not expect that the experts of the temple would return in less than an hour. Once they returned, they would definitely discover what Chu Fengmian had done. Break! Chu Fengmian did not hide anymore. He unsheathed the sword in his hand and slashed out. Suddenly, the sword split into thousands and bombarded the great ultimate formation. Thousands of sword chi slashed at the 10,000 formation eyes on the great ultimate formation at the same time. At this time, there was no need for Chu Fengmian to hide anymore. As long as he took away a large amount of color-glazed clean water, he only needed to leave the oceanic sacrifice sect and escape. Bam! 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 Sword chi swept across, each of them accurately slashing at a formation eye. Above the ancient gate, the 10,000 formation eyes of the great ultimate formation were shattered at the same time. The great ultimate formation was destroyed in an instant. Without the protection of the great ultimate formation, the ancient door had no power. Chu Fengmian waved his sword, and the door was smashed into pieces. Chu Fengmian's figure moved and rushed into the door. Chapter 1980. Chu Fengmian couldn't waste any more time as the experts in the temple had already returned. He couldn't care less about hiding his strength. He used all his strength to destroy the great ultimate formation and rushed through the gate. At the same time, almost as soon as the formation of myriad tribulations was broken, one of the figures in the temple suddenly changed his expression and stopped. The figure closed his eyes tightly, as if he was examining something. The more he examined, the more unfriendly his expression became. "What's going on? What's going on?" The other figures around him also stopped and couldn't help but ask. "The great ultimate formation is broken," the figure said with a pale face. "Someone broke into the sacrificial lake." "What? The great ultimate formation is broken? How is that possible? What's going on?" The other figures of the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect trembled when they heard this. They couldn't believe it. The sacrificial lake was the sacred place of the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect. It was the most important place in the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect. It hid a great secret and was also the most heavily guarded place in the sect. Putting aside the fact that there were 3 Celestial Realm experts guarding the temple on weekdays, even without the protection of the 3, the restriction array in the temple was enough to prevent the Celestial Realm experts from breaking it. It was impossible for a single Celestial Realm expert to break into the sacrificial lake in the depths of the temple. What's more, above the gate that guarded the sacrificial lake, there was an absolute formation. Such a formation was extremely troublesome even for Celestial Realm experts. Unless several Celestial Realm experts joined forces to attack the temple, it was impossible to break into the sacrificial lake. The other figures of the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect couldn't believe it when they heard the Patriarch's words. The great ultimate formation is indeed broken by someone. It's done by the people in the temple. It's Lan Ming. The Patriarch's eyes flickered as he guessed something in an instant. The restrictive formation outside the temple was still intact. This proved that it wasn't an invasion by an external enemy, but by someone in the temple. Apart from them, only Chu Fengyan, who was disguised as Lan Ming, was in the temple. Lan Ming? What is he doing? Breaking into the sacrificial lake? Is he crazy? The other figures of the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect didn't look good. The sacrificial lake had great implications. Once it was broken into, the patriarchs and elders who were responsible for guarding the sacrificial lake would not escape punishment. Let's go. Let's go to the sacrificial lake. Let's capture this audacious Lan Ming first. We can't let him plunder in the sacrificial lake. The ancestor stomped his foot and dashed into the divine temple at an extremely fast speed. The patriarchs and the ancestral patriarchs. On. After breaking the formation, Chu Fengyan finally arrived at the deepest part of the temple, the most secretive location of the Seaborn sect, the sacrificial lake. As time, teeth. The moment Chu Fengyan glanced at the ocean, he was stunned. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The water in the ocean wasn't ordinary water, but a kind of spiritual water. It was a water attribute treasure, the 6 Directions mysterious water. Although the 6 Directions mysterious water wasn't as good as the color glazed clean water, it was still a sacred object for martial artists and demon gods who cultivated water attribute techniques. Even a bottle of 6 Directions mysterious water could be sold at a high price in the outside world. However, there was an ocean of 6 Directions mysterious water, and he couldn't see the end of it. No matter how knowledgeable Chu Fengyan was, he was stunned. He couldn't imagine that the sacrificial lake in the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect was an ocean made of 6 Directions mysterious water. It made Chu Fengyan feel like he was in a mountain of gold. Gold was everywhere. No wonder the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect is so powerful. With so much 6 Directions mysterious water, how many Oceanic tribe experts can it create? Chu Fengyan was shocked. The 6 Directions mysterious water was a sacred object of the Oceanic tribe. It was extremely useful for Oceanic tribe members to break through to the next realm. With so much 6 Directions mysterious water, it could nurture tens of thousands of half-step sky humans. However, Chu Fengyan reacted after being shocked for a moment. Although the 6 Directions mysterious water was precious, it wasn't very useful to Chu Fengyan. After all, he wasn't from the Oceanic tribe. Even if Chu Fengyan obtained the 6 Directions mysterious water, it would only be a treasure. What Chu Fengyan really needed this time was the color glazed clean water. After arriving at the sacrificial lake, Chu Fengyan could clearly sense the aura of the colored glaze clean water not far ahead. Chu Fengyan's gaze shifted to the center of the sacrificial lake. The seawater in the center of the sacrificial lake didn't seem to be the six directions mysterious water. Instead, it appeared to be a seven-colored glaze. The colored glaze clean water. The colored glaze clean water was in the center of the sacrificial lake. Although there wasn't as much colored glaze clean water as an ocean, it was still the size of a small lake. Go! Chu Fengmian's body suddenly transformed into primogenitor Tianlong's appearance. He pushed his escape light to the extreme and flew toward the center of the sacrificial lake. Devour! When he arrived at the center of the sacrificial lake and looked at the colored glaze clean water under his feet, Chu Fengmian let out a long howl and gathered his heaven-devouring power to the extreme. Suddenly, a huge vortex condensed above Chu Fengmian's head. The vortex was extremely deep, like a black hole with no end in sight. It erupted with a powerful suction force. Streams of colored glaze clean water in the center of the sacrificial lake were frantically devoured by the black hole. Almost every moment, a large amount of colored glaze clean water was being devoured by the heaven-devouring secret technique. Good, good. So much colored glaze clean water. It's not just the Tai Chu sword edge. The demonic intent in the heart of the evil blood demon emperor can also be neutralized. It will be of great use in the future. I want to plunder it. Plunder as much as I can. Chu Fengmian was extremely excited. It was a great opportunity to obtain so much colored glaze clean water. There wouldn't be a second time in the future. This time, Chu Fengmian wanted to plunder as much as he could. The power of the heaven-devouring secret technique was pushed to the extreme, and a large amount of colored glaze clean water was being devoured. However, it wasn't just the colored glaze clean water. Chu Fengmian didn't let go of the six directions mysterious water either. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guest House Mobile Edition. Chapter 1981. Chu Fengmian didn't let go of anything that could be devoured by the sky-devouring secret technique. He had already formed an irreconcilable grudge with the Sea Sacrifice sect by sneaking into the sect this time. There was no need to show mercy now. He would devour as much as he could. Chu Fengmian felt that the sky-devouring secret technique had devoured about 30% of the colored glaze clean water in the lake in a short time. As the water level of the lake dropped, Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered. Suddenly, he saw a palace appear in the colored glaze clean water. The palace was hidden under the colored glaze clean water. It was concealed by the power of the colored glaze clean water, so Chu Fengmian didn't notice it just now. As the sky-devouring secret technique devoured a large amount of colored glaze clean water, the water level of the lake dropped. Only then did Chu Fengmian notice that there was a palace hidden under the colored glaze clean water. Let's go and have a look. Chu Fengmian also knew that the palace hidden under the colored glaze clean water was definitely something good. He continued to activate the sky-devouring secret technique to devour the colored glaze clean water. At the same time, he had already transformed into his human form and arrived in front of the palace. Chu Fengmian walked over. There were no restrictions or arrays in the palace. Chu Fengmian looked around and found that there was no danger. Then, he stepped into the palace. As soon as he entered the palace, Chu Fengmian smelled an incomparably pure medicinal aroma. The medicinal aroma was so strong that Chu Fengmian couldn't tell what kind of elixir it belonged to. The medicinal aroma of ancient grade, middle grade, and even ancient grade sacred elixirs were mixed together. Chu Fengmian tried to distinguish them and identified thousands of medicinal aroma. Almost all of them were of ancient sacred elixir grade. Even the medicinal aroma of ancient sacred elixir was not a small number. What is this place? Chu Fengmian couldn't help but feel shocked. He walked into the depths of the palace and saw countless jade bottles floating in the air. Each of these jade bottles was filled with sacred elixirs. Such jade bottles floated in the depths of the palace, like countless stars in the sky. Is this the treasury of the Sea Sacrifice sect? The treasury in charge of storing elixirs? Chu Fengmian was overjoyed to see this scene. Chu Fengmian could see that there were tens of thousands of jade bottles here. Each bottle was filled with all kinds of sacred elixirs. The number of sacred elixirs in the palace was much more than what Chu Fengmian had seen in his life. Chu Fengmian couldn't tell what kind of sacred elixir pills there were, but most of them were ancient sacred elixir pills above the ancient sacred elixir pills. At a glance, there were more than 100,000 sacred elixirs. More sacred elixirs as could be compared to the ocean 6 water turned. An ocean sacred elixir was even more than the oceans, not be ocean the ocean. 2 says A was even more. Was the ocean. He was. These was, one. A was, one was, and it was used to stabilize one's realm. It's very useful to me. Chu Fengmian grabbed the first jade bottle. He recognized the origin of the sacred elixir in it at a glance. It was an ancient sacred elixir, Xianhua sacred elixir. The recipe for this sacred elixir had long been lost in the 9 regions. This was the first time Chu Fengmian had seen it. There were more than a dozen profound flower saint elixirs in the jade bottle. Once Chu Fengmian refined these profound flower saint elixirs, they could help Chu Fengmian stabilize his realm and increase his strength. Chu Fengmian had just broken through and his realm was unstable. He needed sacred elixirs like the Xianhua sacred elixir to stabilize his realm. However, Chu Fengmian took a look and found that the elixir's potency had been depleted. It was only about 70%. It seemed that the Xianhua sacred elixir was not refined by the sea sacrifice sect, but by the sect's experts. They found some ancient cave ruins and got it from them. However, even 70% Xianhua sacred elixir was very useful to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian took the Xianhua sacred elixir and condensed spiritual power in his palm. He broke the seal on it and directly grabbed the Xianhua sacred elixir into the empty ring. At the same time, Chu Fengmian also urged his spiritual power. Behind him, waves of spiritual power turned into dragon claws to help Chu Fengmian absorb the sacred elixir. There were 9 dragon claws. This was the limit of Chu Fengmian's power. The restrictive spells on these divine elixirs were almost all set up by celestial realm experts. Although most of these restrictive spells were set up to protect the efficacy of the divine elixirs from dissipating, it was not easy to break them. Chu Fengmian could condense 9 dragon claws at the same time to help Chu Fengmian absorb the sacred elixir. This was already the limit. 9 dragon claws crazily absorbed the sacred elixirs from the palace. One by one, the jade bottles were taken over. Chu Fengmian broke the seal and put them all into the empty ring. Jin Yuan's sacred elixir, an ancient sacred elixir for refining the body. Good stuff. Take it. Underworld sacred elixir. Ancient sacred elixir. Just one was enough to bring the dead back to life. Reconstruct the body. Good stuff. Take it. Berserk demonic elixir. Take it. Reverse golden elixir. Take it. Chu Fengmian crazily collected the sacred elixirs in the palace. The harvest of these sacred elixirs was much more than the glazed clean water that Chu Fengmian had plundered. Ancient sacred elixirs and ancient sacred elixirs were now difficult to buy outside, no matter how rich one was. But now, in this palace, Chu Fengmian could collect a large number of high-quality sacred elixirs at any time. This made Chu Fengmian want to uproot the palace and collect them one by one. However, Chu Fengmian quickly dismissed this idea. Although there were no restrictions or arrays on the palace, it was connected to the sacrificial lake. Unless Chu Fengmian moved the entire sacrificial lake, it was impossible to move the palace directly. As for moving the huge sacrificial lake, Chu Fengmian did not have the ability to do so. Even celestial realm experts did not have the ability to do so. After all, the sacrificial lake was the sacred place and core of the sea sacrifice sect. If it could be moved so easily, it would not be worthy of being called a sacred place. Chu Fengmian could only take as many sacred elixirs as he could. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guest House mobile version. Chapter 1982. Chu Fengmian no longer cared about the specific efficacy of the sacred elixirs. He would take as many bottles as he could. Chu Fengmian also knew that someone would come soon if he plundered a large amount of the sacred elixirs in the sacrificial lake. Boom! Just as Chu Fengmian was absorbing the sacred elixirs, a powerful force suddenly came from the edge of the sacrificial lake. An expert had come to the sacrificial lake. Following that, two more forces descended at the same time. The three ancestors of the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect who were in charge of guarding the temple had rushed back. When the three ancestors of the Sea Sacrificial Sect arrived at the sacrificial lake, they immediately saw that the center of the sacrificial lake was already half devoured by the heaven-devouring secret technique. When they saw this scene, the three ancestors of the Oceanite Sect almost fainted. Even a celestial realm expert couldn't bear such a blow. The glazed aqua in the sacrificial lake had been accumulated by the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect for hundreds of thousands of years. Now, half of it had been plundered. How could it not go crazy? Damn it, Lan Ming is too audacious. He's crazy. How dare he rob the sacrificial lake? Where's Lan Ming? Why isn't he here? No, the treasury. Lan Ming went to the treasury. Suddenly, the three of them sensed Chu Fengmian's location and flew toward the center of the sacrificial lake. Others didn't know what was hidden in the center of the sacrificial lake, but the three of them were in charge of guarding the sacrificial lake. Of course, they knew that the center of the sacrificial lake was the treasury of the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect. That was why the sacrificial lake was so heavily guarded. They didn't expect Chu Fengmian to discover it by accident. The loss of the glazed aqua wasn't a big deal, but the treasury was a treasure that the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect had accumulated for hundreds of thousands of years. It couldn't be plundered. Three celestial realm experts are coming together. Chu Fengmian, who was in the palace, also sensed that the three terrifying auras were coming. The three ancestors of the Oceanic Sacrificial Sect, three celestial realm experts, chased after Chu Fengmian at the same time. I can't plunder anymore. Chu Fengmian looked at the countless divine elixir pills in the palace and felt pity. Although Chu Fengmian tried his best to plunder, he only managed to take away less than 1/10 of the sane elixir pills in the palace. The remaining 9/10 were still in the palace. However, Chu Fengmian now understood that he couldn't continue plundering. With three celestial realm experts joining forces, Chu Fengmian could only think of ways to escape. There was no possibility of fighting back at all. Finally, I'll plunder a batch of holy elixirs. In an instant, Chu Fengmian scanned the countless divine elixirs in the palace and noticed the 9 jade bottles with the strongest medicinal efficacy. Behind Chu Fengmian, the 9 dragon claws grabbed the 9 jade bottles and put them into the empty ring. These 9 jade bottles contain the 9 highest quality ancient sacred pills in this palace. After collecting them, Chu Fengmian did not hesitate to disperse the sky-devouring secret skill and the 9 dragon claws. He gathered all his strength and flew out of the palace. Almost in an instant, Chu Fengmian had left the palace. Chu Fengmian looked at the bottom of the azure Clearwater Lake. In addition to this palace, there were 7 other different palaces. There were a total of 8 palaces, all of which were the treasures of the Sea Sacrifice Sect. In the palace that Chu Fengmian had just plundered, there were only divine elixir pills. It should be the palace that stored the divine elixir pills. The rest of the palaces were the palaces that stored spiritual weapons, materials, and all kinds of strange things. Chu Fengmian glanced at these palaces and had a feeling that if he could plunder all 8 of them in one go, these resources would be enough for him to break through the half-step celestial realm, cross the celestial tribulation, and become an immortal. Of course, Chu Fengmian could only imagine this idea. He didn't have so much time to plunder all the palaces. It was already a great opportunity to plunder a batch of divine elixir pills. If Chu Fengmian stayed, it would be difficult for him to escape. The sacrificial lake was the center of the Sea Sacrifice Sect. Chu Fengmian's wanton plundering of the sacrificial lake didn't just alarm the 3 patriarchs who were in charge of guarding the lake. It was likely that even more patriarchs in the Sea Sacrifice Sect, including the ancient Emperor Sea Sacrifice, would be alerted and would come to hunt him down. By then, no matter how much Chu Fengmian had plundered, he wouldn't be alive to spend it. The harvest from this time's dive into the sacrificial lake was far beyond Chu Fengmian's imagination. Not only did he get a lot of azure clear water, but he also found the treasury of the Sea Sacrifice sect and plundered a lot of divine elixir pills. If Chu Fengmian refined all of these divine elixir pills, his strength would be enough to rise to a completely different level. It was even possible for him to reach the peak of the half-step celestial realm. Let's go. Chu Fengmian's figure flickered again and again as the escape light was pushed to the extreme. After leaving the palace, Chu Fengmian flew directly to the edge of the sacrificial lake, ready to leave the temple and escape the Sea Sacrifice sect. The three ancestors of the Sea Sacrifice sect also rushed over at this time. They looked at Chu Fengmian and said with an extremely angry face, "Lan Ming, you bastard! Our Sea Sacrifice sect painstakingly cultivated you to become the Ocean Emperor of the generation. How dare you rob the sacrificial lake? Is this bastard trying to escape? Stop him!" The three ancestors of the Sea Sacrifice sect looked at Chu Fengmian's escape light and attacked at the same time. The three Celestial Realm experts attacked at the same time. Their power condensed together and condensed the water's spiritual power. Suddenly, the surrounding space was frozen. It was somewhat like the power of Tianlong transformation to seal the space. The entire sacrificial lake was completely sealed and turned into a trap. The three Celestial Realm experts joined forces and could seal the space at will. Even the Celestial Realm experts couldn't escape. After sealing the space, the three Celestial Realm experts rushed toward Chu Fengmian, bombarding him with waves of spiritual power. These waves of spiritual power were not killing moves, but a means of suppression. The three of them joined forces to perform a secret technique and suppress Chu Fengmian. In their opinion, even if Lan Ming had stepped into the Celestial Realm, he couldn't escape the sacrificial lake today. As long as they subdued Lan Ming, the loss of the sacrificial lake could be recovered. If they killed Lan Ming and the sacrificial lake fought to the death, the loss of the sacrificial lake would be even greater. For the three ancestors of the Sea Sacrifice sect guarding the sacrificial lake, recovering the loss of the sacrificial lake was much more important than killing Lan Ming. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guesthouse Mobile Version. Chapter 1983. Chu Fengmian had also noticed this. The three patriarchs guarding the sacrificial lake didn't attack with killing moves, but with the intention of suppressing him. After all, from their point of view, they were three Celestial Realm experts working together to deal with Chu Fengmian. No matter how powerful Chu Fengmian was, it was impossible for him to escape from their joint attack. However, the three ancestors of the Sea Sacrifice sect had never imagined that the Lan Ming before them was actually Chu Fengmian in disguise. The three patriarchs had sealed the space around the sacrificial lake. It was indeed difficult for a Celestial Realm expert to break through. But for Chu Fengmian, who had fused with progenitor Tianlong's Genesis Qi and controlled the origin of space, the sealed space was no different from a piece of paper in his eyes. If the three patriarchs used their killing moves together, it would be very difficult for Chu Fengmian to resist. But now, the three of them wanted to suppress him, which greatly reduced the pressure on Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian was now a half-step Celestial Realm expert. He wasn't inferior to a Celestial Realm expert. Although he couldn't fight one against three, the three didn't want to kill him, so the pressure on Chu Fengmian wasn't that great. It was far more difficult to suppress a martial artist of the same level than to kill him. The three forefathers of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect attacked in unison. Waves of spiritual power transformed into chains that wrapped around Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian sneered and suddenly erupted with the power of the Black Whale's bloodline. Combined with progenitor Tianlong's bloodline, he blasted out a punch. The power of this punch contained the power of progenitor Tianlong and the Black Whale. It was the Dragon Whale Sea-Splitting Fist that Chu Fengmian had once created. The Dragon Whale Sea-Splitting Fist was originally a fist technique that Chu Fengmian had created to hide his identity. It wasn't a particularly powerful fist technique. But now that Chu Fengmian had obtained the black whale's bloodline, the dragon whale, sea-splitting fist he blasted out again combined the power of progenitor Tianlong and the black whale. The power of this punch was close to that of an immortal art. With a single punch, the countless chains that were trying to entangle Chu Fengmian were all shattered by the punch. After resolving the entanglement of those chains, Chu Fengmian flew all the way out of the sacrificial lake. What kind of fist technique is that? The power of the dragon whale? When did Lan Ming learn such a powerful fist technique? The three forefathers of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect stared at Chu Fengmian's dragon whale, sea-splitting fist in astonishment, as if they had never seen such a fist technique before. It looks like Lan Ming has been hiding his strength for a long time. He might have joined the Sea Sacrificial sect to sneak into the sacrificial lake. This Lan Ming is so well hidden. Don't waste your breath here. Capture him and torture him. I don't believe that he won't spill everything. As the three Sea Sacrifice sect patriarchs conversed, their figures flickered as they chased after Chu Fengmian. However, even though the three of them were chasing Chu Fengmian, they were unable to get close to him. Instead, they were getting further and further away from him. What's going on? How could Lan Ming be so fast? I feel that he hasn't stepped into the celestial realm yet. How could he be so fast? The guardian elder said in astonishment as he watched Chu Fengmian's escape light getting further and further away. He was a celestial realm powerhouse, yet he couldn't catch up with Chu Fengmian. Don't worry, we have sealed off the sacrificial lake. Lan Ming can escape even if he has great abilities. Another forefather of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect said coldly. Hearing this, the other two forefathers were also relieved. The sacrificial lake was sealed off. No matter how fast Chu Fengmian's escape light was, he couldn't escape. However, their thoughts were completely in vain. Chu Fengmian's escape light came all the way to the edge of the sacrificial lake. When he was about to leave the sacrificial lake, he was stopped by a force. The three forefathers of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect had just joined forces and laid down layers of seals, sealing off the space of the sacrificial lake so that no one could leave. However, Chu Fengmian only glanced at the blocking force and suddenly attacked. Break! The word break came out from Chu Fengmian's mouth. All of a sudden, the layers of sealed space in front of Chu Fengmian started to shake. Many of the sealed space in front of Chu Fengmian were shattered. Chu Fengmian waved his hand and blasted out a palm strike. Boom! Chu Fengmian's figure did not hesitate at all as he flew out of the temple. The space that was heavily sealed was breached by this palm. The layers of seals jointly laid out by the three forefathers of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect, three celestial realm powerhouses, were broken by Chu Fengmian with a wave of his hand. This was beyond everyone's imagination. The three forefathers of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect who were chasing Chu Fengmian widened their eyes when they saw this scene. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. How is this possible? How could Lan Ming break our seal? No, with such strength, this person can't be Lan Ming. This Lan Ming is fake. Someone pretended to be him and sneaked into the sacrificial lake. The three forefathers of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect suddenly reacted when they saw this scene. This kind of strength wasn't something Lan Ming could achieve. Even if Lan Ming had truly stepped into the celestial realm, he wouldn't be able to tear apart the space sealed by the three celestial realm powerhouses. Moreover, Chu Fengmian had torn apart the space so easily. Damn it! Someone actually sneaked into the sacrificial lake. Hurry up and inform the Oceanic Sacrifice Emperor. The three forefathers of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect were infuriated when they realized that this Lan Ming was fake. Someone had pretended to be Lan Ming and sneaked into the sacrificial lake right under their noses. This person simply didn't take them seriously. If news of this spread, the three of them would become the laughingstock of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect. In particular, if Chu Fengmian escaped today, they would become the laughingstock of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect. Chase. This person can't have escaped far. Even if he escapes the temple, he can't escape the Oceanic Sacrifice sect. After the three forefathers of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect passed on a message, They continued to chase in the direction Chu Fengmian had escaped without stopping. Chu Fengmian had already used the sky-devouring secret technique to whittle away more than 90% of the power of the various restrictions in the temple. Now, they were extremely fragile. Chu Fengmian left the sacrificial lake and immediately flew out of the sacrificial lake. Along the way, Chu Fengmian used the sky-devouring secret technique to break all the restrictions and array formations in an instant. Chapter 1984. Chu Fengmian used the sky-devouring secret technique to destroy the countless restrictions and arrays in the temple. Chu Fengmian's escape light flew all the way out of the temple, almost unhindered. In particular, the three ancestors of the sea sacrificial sect who had been chasing Chu Fengmian were left far behind and would not be able to catch up in a short period of time. Although Chu Fengmian was now in the half-step celestial being realm, in terms of the speed of escape light, Chu Fengmian, who had mastered the way of space, was much faster than the escape light of a true celestial being realm expert. Soon, Chu Fengmian had already arrived outside the temple. After leaving the temple and the sea sacrificial sect, Chu Fengmian could truly escape with his life. The Songhai star system was so vast that no matter where Chu Fengmian hid, it would be difficult to find him. No matter how many powerhouses there were in the sea sacrificial sect, it would be impossible to find Chu Fengmian. Not to mention, Chu Fengmian had already obtained the glazed clean water. Chu Fengmian's final goal in coming to the vast sea star field had been accomplished. Chu Fengmian could simply leave the vast sea star field and return to the Dalu Ocean star field. Oh, someone is really bold to sneak into the sacrificial lake to steal the treasure. Interesting. Since you're here, don't leave. Stay. Just as Chu Fengmian's light was about to leave the temple, a wave of power suddenly descended from the sky. This wave of power transformed into an ancient trident that stabbed straight at Chu Fengmian. Vaguely, the power of heaven and earth condensed under the trident and pressed down together, making it difficult to dodge. Another celestial realm powerhouse. Chu Fengmian was shocked when he felt the power of the trident. So soon, another celestial realm powerhouse had arrived. The power of this trident was the true power of the immortal technique. It came down from the sky, and its power was extremely tyrannical. If it had been Chu Fengmian in the realm of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu, he would have been seriously injured, if not killed. But now, Chu Fengmian had stepped into the half-step celestial realm. His strength was no different from a celestial realm expert. In Chu Fengmian's eyes, even the celestial realm expert's celestial art was just an ordinary martial skill. Sword out. Greed. Chu Fengmian didn't dodge at all. Seeing the trident coming down, a sword light flew out from the world's edge sword box behind Chu Fengmian. The ancestral Dragon Supreme sword was immediately unsheathed and held in Chu Fengmian's hand. In an instant, the power of the stars descended and condensed on the sword in Chu Fengmian's hand. A ray of starlight sword chi immediately slashed into the sky and collided with the trident. Many of Chu Fengmian's sword arts were immortal arts. For example, the 9 forms of the progenitor and the 9 profound immortal arts had transformed into sword arts that surpassed thousands of immortal arts. They were extremely powerful moves among immortal arts. Previously, Chu Fengmian's realm was too low to display the true power of these sword arts. Now that he had stepped into the celestial realm, he could display the true power of these sword arts. This was the first form of the 9 profound immortal arts, the greed. The starlight sword chi soared into the sky and collided with the trident, breaking it directly. Interesting. A half-step celestial realm expert actually has such strength? After the trident was broken, a young man suddenly appeared. He was holding an ancient trident in his hand, which was very similar to the trident that had just descended. The trident that had just slashed at Chu Fengmian was the shadow of the trident in the young man's hand. The trident contained a kind of immortal power, an immortal weapon, a true immortal weapon. The trident was a true immortal weapon, not a half-step immortal weapon. It was a true immortal weapon. Of course, it wasn't the real extreme Dao immortal weapon. The extreme Dao immortal weapon was a supreme existence among the immortal weapons. Only the most powerful immortal weapons could be called extreme Tao immortal weapons. However, an immortal weapon surpassed a spiritual weapon and a half-step immortal weapon. It was an immortal weapon. This was the first time Chu Fengmian had seen a true immortal weapon. The sharpness of the trident made him feel a sense of dread. Donglin, Ocean Emperor? Chu Fengmian looked over and saw the young man. He recognized the young man through Lan Ming's memory. Donglin, Ocean Emperor. He was the disciple of the Ocean Emperor, the youngest Ocean Emperor in the Ocean Sacrifice sect. He was also one of the 2 Ocean Emperors in the Ocean Sacrifice sect. Chu Fengmian had heard a lot about Donglin, Ocean Emperor. Today, he finally saw him with his own eyes. Boy, you've got guts to come to the Ocean Sacrifice sect. But today, you've met your end. Donglin, Ocean Emperor sized Chu Fengmian up and said arrogantly. As the youngest Ocean Emperor in the Ocean Sacrifice sect, Donglin Ocean Emperor had an innate arrogance. However, he had the right to be arrogant. Apart from the oldest Ocean Emperor, Donglin Ocean Emperor was the most talented Ocean Emperor. In just a few hundred years, he had become an Ocean Emperor. Such heaven-defying aptitude. Many other Ocean Emperors didn't even enter his eyes, let alone Chu Fengmian, a half-step sky being. Is that so? You want to stop me? I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Chu Fengmian sneered. His figure flickered and turned into a beam of light, flying out of the Ocean Sacrifice sect. Chu Fengmian didn't want to waste time with Donglin Ocean Emperor. His goal was to escape the Ocean Sacrifice sect. Is that so? What's this little beam of light? Primogenitor Tianlong. Do you really think you're invincible? If I want to stop you, it'll be easy. Chu Fengmian's beam of light contained the power of Primogenitor Tianlong. It seemed slow, but in fact it was half illusory and half real, making it impossible to stop. Donglin Ocean Emperor also saw this, but he suddenly took out an ancient stamp platform from his spatial ring. He held the stamp platform in his hand, poured spiritual power into it, and covered the ground. The surrounding space suddenly turned into a unique space. Even Chu Fengmian's beam of light was sucked into this space. Even if Chu Fengmian used the power of Primogenitor Tianlong, it seemed that he couldn't escape from this unique space. Another immortal artifact? Chu Fengmian looked at the stamp platform in Donglin Ocean Emperor's hand. It actually contained a wave of immortal power. The stamp platform that Donglin Ocean Emperor suddenly took out was another immortal artifact. It was the power of this stamp platform that directly sealed Chu Fengmian in this space. Chapter 1985. This stamp platform was another immortal artifact. Chu Fengmian had only seen a half-immortal artifact after coming to the Shanghai Star Zone. As for a true immortal artifact, he had only seen the trident in the East Forest Ocean Emperor's hand for the first time. Even Lan Ming, whose strength was no less than a true celestial being and his status as an elder of the Sea Sacrifice sect, had never possessed an immortal artifact. Now, the East Forest Ocean Emperor had taken out another immortal artifact. An Ocean Emperor who had just entered the celestial being realm actually had 2 immortal artifacts. The stamp platform that the East Forest Ocean Emperor had taken out this time had ancient patterns on it that were incomparably noble. Chu Fengmian couldn't immediately discern the mystery of these ancient patterns, but Chu Fengmian felt that these ancient patterns were somewhat similar to the ancient patterns on the Emperor Jar. This stamp platform was like an immortal artifact from before the primordial era had been shattered. However, it seemed to be somewhat similar to the Emperor Jar. For some unknown reason, this stamp platform had lost a lot of its power. Even so, the immortal artifact's power was still incomparably tyrannical. The stamp platform's power was activated by the East Forest Ocean Emperor and suddenly pulled Chu Fengmian into a unique space. This immortal artifact stamp platform was actually an immortal artifact that contained the space Tao. This kind of immortal artifact was incomparably precious and rare, even among thousands of immortal artifacts. Chu Fengmian was pulled into this space. He could feel that even though he had activated the power of Ancestor Tianlong, he couldn't break through this space and was trapped inside. The East Forest Ocean Emperor's strength isn't strong, but he actually has 2 immortal artifacts. The trident is still manageable, but this stamp platform is incomparably troublesome. The East Forest Ocean Emperor's strength wasn't even as strong as the three celestial being ancestors guarding the temple. However, the two immortal artifacts doubled his strength. This stamp platform, in particular, made Chu Fengmian feel that it was extremely troublesome. He gathered his spiritual energy and tried to bombard the surrounding space with the intention of creating an opening. However, no matter how Chu Fengmian bombarded it, the space remained unshaken. Kid, don't waste your energy. The space sealed by this stamp platform is so sealed that even a true celestial realm martial artist would not be able to escape, let alone a little guy like you who is only half a step into the celestial realm. The East Forest Ocean Emperor sneered as he watched Chu Fengmian attempt to break through the sealed space. You possess the bloodline of the black whale. Looks like that trash Lan Ming must have died at your hands. Looks like today is truly an opportunity given to me by the heavens. I wanted that trash Lan Ming's Xianjing bloodline for a long time, but I didn't have the chance to do it. Now that you've killed Lan Ming, it's perfect. I'll kill you today, and the Xianjing bloodline will be mine. The East Forest Ocean Emperor let out a hearty laugh. Holding the trident in his hand, he attacked again. An extremely ferocious halberd technique was unleashed. This set of halberd techniques was filled with murderous intent. In an instant, hundreds of sharp edges slashed towards Chu Fengmian from all directions. Any of these sharp edges was an absolute killing move. Even the slightest touch would cause one to fall into an irrecoverable situation. If not death, then injury. Immortal technique. Immortal artifact. The moment the East Forest Ocean Emperor attacked, the pressure on Chu Fengmian was even greater than when Chu Fengmian faced the Waterfront Sword Ocean Emperor. The East Forest Ocean Emperor had already stepped into the celestial realm and become an immortal. The immortal weapon, the trident, and the immortal arts he executed were able to unleash their full power. The East Forest Ocean Emperor was the disciple of the worshipping Ocean Emperor. He was a super genius of the Ocean Sacrifice sect and had learned almost all of the mysterious immortal techniques passed down from ancient times. The East Forest Ocean Emperor attacked with ferocious moves. An ordinary celestial realm powerhouse might not be his match. Chu Fengmian originally planned to leave the Ocean Sacrifice sect directly, but now that he was sealed by the immortal platform, Chu Fengmian had no choice but to fight. Behind Chu Fengmian, the ancestral Dragon Supreme Sword and the titanic Godly Sword emerged from the World's Edge sword case. At the same time, tens of thousands of sword chi flew out from the World's Edge sword case. As Chu Fengmian's realm increased and stepped into the half-step celestial realm, the World's Edge sword case was now fully unleashed by Chu Fengmian. Tens of thousands of sword chi flew out from the World's Edge sword case and arrived in front of Chu Fengmian, suddenly turning into a sword array. Ancient sword array. Sky-splitting sword array. Tens of thousands of sword chi formed the sky-splitting sword array and collided with the East Forest Ocean Emperor's halberd technique in the air. Boom! The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The sun and moon collapsed. The collision between the two forces was strong enough to shatter the mountains and rivers in the surroundings. The battle between Chu Fengmian and the East Forest Ocean Emperor was no different from a real celestial realm powerhouse. If there was no defense, it would be enough to shatter the entire star continent. However, the immortal artifact stamp in the East Forest Ocean Emperor's hand shook again. All the aftermath of the collision was sealed in this space and could not be transmitted to the Sea Sacrifice sect below. At the same time, the East Forest Ocean Emperor held the stamp in his hand and suddenly suppressed Chu Fengmian. The moment this immortal artifact stamp suppressed Chu Fengmian felt an enormous pressure. His strength was suppressed at this moment by 50%. Originally, Chu Fengmian wanted to mobilize his strength to resist the suppression of this immortal artifact stamp. However, Chu Fengmian felt that his strength was somewhat weak and could not be mobilized. It was as if he was suppressed by this immortal artifact stamp. Break! Chu Fengmian roared. The sky-splitting sword array suddenly exploded. Tens of thousands of sword chi were all shattered and turned into a divine light that fiercely bombarded the immortal artifact stamp. At this moment, Chu Fengyan seized the opportunity and hurriedly dodged back. The feeling of being suppressed finally disappeared. Luckily, Chu Fengyan escaped with a lingering fear. Fortunately, Chu Fengyan reacted quickly. He suddenly detonated the sky-splitting sword formation, condensed the power of tens of thousands of strands of sword chi, and fiercely bombarded the immortal artifact stamp, giving Chu Fengyan a chance to escape from the suppression of the immortal artifact stamp. The suppression of this immortal artifact stamp had suppressed 50% of Chu Fengyan's strength. It was simply terrifying to the extreme. If Chu Fengyan had not reacted in time, he would have been suppressed by this immortal artifact stamp. The power of this immortal artifact stamp made Chu Fengyan somewhat unable to resist. By the time Chu Fengyan realized it, his strength had already been suppressed. Chapter 1986. What is the origin of this stamp platform? This stamp platform comes from an incomparably ancient era. It has lost a lot of power, but it still has such power? Chu Fengyan felt that the power of this immortal artifact stamp platform was no less than the Emperor Jar in his hand. Even if Chu Fengyan took out the Emperor Jar now, he might not be able to contend with the power of this immortal artifact stamp platform. This time, Chu Fengyan only managed to avoid the first suppression. Seeing that the first suppression failed, the East Forest Sea Emperor condensed spiritual power again and suppressed with this immortal artifact stamp platform. At the same time, the East Forest Sea Emperor also held the trident and displayed countless halberd techniques. In an instant, several halberd techniques were displayed at the same time. These halberd techniques, without exception, were all immortal techniques. Although they were the most ordinary immortal techniques, the power displayed together was still incomparably terrifying. Chu Fengyan used both swords and displayed countless sword techniques of the Nine Realms sword technique to resist. However, on the other side, Chu Fengyan still had to pay attention to the East Forest Sea Emperor's every move. The East Forest Sea Emperor did not use the halberd technique to kill Chu Fengyan. Instead, he wanted to make Chu Fengyan reveal a flaw. Then he would directly attack and suppress with this immortal artifact stamp platform. In this way, the pressure that Chu Fengyan originally faced would become even greater. Every time he resisted, it was hair-raising. If he was careless, he would be suppressed by this immortal artifact stamp platform. At the same time, Chu Fengyan felt that the 3C sacrifice sect patriarchs who had been chasing him had also caught up. If he did not deal with the East Forest Sea Emperor's immortal artifact stamp platform now and escape, then Chu Fengyan would be besieged by 4 Celestial Realm experts. Even if Chu Fengyan had 3 heads and 6 arms, he would undoubtedly die. Chu Fengyan struggled to resist the halberd technique of the East Forest Sea Emperor and the suppression of the immortal artifact stamp platform, while observing the stamp platform in the East Forest Sea Emperor's hand. Chu Fengyan knew that the most troublesome thing about the East Forest Sea Emperor was this immortal artifact stamp platform. Without this immortal artifact stamp platform, Chu Fengyan could use the power of Tianlong Change to escape at any time. But it was precisely this immortal tool stamp that completely sealed off the surrounding space, making it impossible for Chu Fengyan to escape. However, it was impossible for the Donglin Ocean Emperor to suppress Chu Fengyan within a short period of time. This was the first time Chu Fengyan was caught off guard. After suffering from the immortal treasure imprint platform, Chu Fengyan had been paying attention to it. This immortal implement stamp probably hadn't completely recognized the Donglin Sea Emperor as its master, just like the Renhuang Jar back then. Although the East Forest Ocean Emperor could use the immortal platform to suppress Chu Fengyan, it wouldn't be as easy. There would be a gap, and this gap would allow Chu Fengyan to escape. The East Forest Ocean Emperor had forced Chu Fengyan into a desperate situation several times in a row. He had tried to suppress Chu Fengyan, but all his efforts had been in vain. At the last moment, Chu Fengyan had managed to escape. This made the East Forest Ocean Emperor even angrier. In his eyes, dealing with Chu Fengyan was just like dealing with a little guy who was half a step away from the Celestial Being realm. Since he had already used 2 immortal artifacts, suppressing Chu Fengyan should be a piece of cake. After several failures, the East Forest Ocean Emperor was infuriated. How troublesome. Kid, Do you really think you can escape from me? Life seal. Suppress the common life. The East Forest Ocean Emperor roared and poured a large amount of immortal power into the immortal tool stamp in his hand. This immortal power wasn't the East Forest Ocean Emperor's own power, but a part of the immortal power he had accumulated by devouring immortal stones. Celestial being realm experts could only truly condense immortal power when they reached the immortal general realm. For example, the East Forest Ocean Emperor could only borrow immortal power from external objects for his own use. After the immortal force was injected into the immortal weapon imprint emitted a blinding light. Countless ancient runes on the immortal weapon imprint were awakened by the immortal force. A shocking might suppress the heavens and earth. After the immortal power was poured into the immortal tool stamp, it was as if a peerless expert had suddenly awakened from a deep slumber. This was the true power of the immortal tool stamp. Life seal. This was the true appearance of the immortal tool stamp. The life seal was awakened by the injection of immortal energy. The East Forest Ocean Emperor held it in his hand, and his aura instantly grew several times stronger. This was the East Forest Ocean Emperor's strength. As the top genius of the Poseidon sect, the East Forest Ocean Emperor possessed the strength of the East Forest Ocean Emperor. However, in order to awaken the life seal, the immortal force that was injected into the immortal tool platform was equivalent to the immortal force of 50 to 60 immortal stones. Using up 50 to 60 immortal stones in one go was an incomparably extravagant act. Even with the East Forest Ocean Emperor's wealth, he couldn't afford such a huge expenditure. Therefore, he wasn't willing to use the true power of a life seal unless it was absolutely necessary. However, Chu Fumian had managed to escape every time he tried to suppress him. That had thoroughly enraged the East Forest Sea Emperor, who was now using up immortal stones to awaken the life grand seal and completely suppress Chu Fumian. The human emperor's halberd. The moment the life seal was awakened, Chu Fumian felt an intense sense of danger. Even though the life seal had not been awakened earlier, Chu Fumian still found it extremely troublesome to deal with. If he was careless, he would be suppressed. Now that it had been awakened, the power of the life seal had increased by several times. Chu Fumian didn't dare to hold back. He immediately summoned the human emperor's jar, which transformed into the human emperor's halberd in his hand, and blasted towards the East Forest Ocean Emperor. An extreme immortal weapon? The East Forest Ocean Emperor's expression changed slightly when he saw the human emperor's halberd. However, he soon realized that the weapon in Chu Fumian's hand wasn't a complete extreme immortal weapon. It was only a fragment. A complete extreme Dao celestial weapon was completely different from an incomplete one. Seeing the human emperor's halberd attack, the East Forest Ocean Emperor sneered and smashed the life seal in his hand. Bam! The two immortal weapons collided in the air. The sharpness of the human emperor's halberd was directly blocked by the life seal. The vibrating power caused the surrounding space to tremble slightly, but it still couldn't break the space. Chu Fumian had summoned the human emperor's halberd to forcibly break the surrounding space, but he failed again. The life seal was the condensation of the power of heaven and earth. It formed a world of its own and was simply unshakable. Who could shake the vastness of heaven and earth? The life seal was the condensation of heaven and earth. Even the human emperor's halberd couldn't shake it. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guesthouse mobile version. Chapter 1987. As long as Chu Fumian couldn't break through the seal, he wouldn't be able to break through the seal. He would be trapped inside until he died. Is the life seal unbreakable? Chu Fumian frowned as he looked at the seal. Even the sharpness of the human emperor's halberd couldn't shake the seal. This made Chu Fumian feel a little desperate. The Donglin Ocean Emperor wasn't the strongest person Chu Fumian had fought, but he was definitely the most difficult to deal with. Being trapped in the space of a life grand seal, Chu Fumian's only path was death. Chu Fumian pondered. On the other side, the Donglin Ocean Emperor's gaze fell on the human emperor's halberd in Chu Fumian's hand. The halberd in your hand contains the power of the human emperor. It should be the legendary human emperor's halberd, the human emperor's jar. I didn't expect it to fall into your hands. The Donglin Ocean Emperor was knowledgeable and recognized the origin of the halberd in Chu Fengmian's hand at a glance. This was the first time Chu Fengmian had met someone outside the 9 regions who recognized the halberd. As a genius of the oceanic sacrificial sect, the Donglin Ocean Emperor had unparalleled talent and strength. He had countless fortuitous encounters and now had vast knowledge. Such a person was simply terrifying to the extreme. Rumor has it that the human emperor's jar is broken. I didn't expect it to have condensed to such an extent. It just so happens that I'm still lacking an extreme immortal weapon. After I kill you, I'll find an opportunity to gather all the fragments of the jar and condense them into the real human emperor's halberd for my use. The moment the Donglin Ocean Emperor spoke, his figure suddenly moved. He didn't use the trident to force Chu Fengmian, but directly picked up the life seal and fiercely suppressed Chu Fengmian. The moment the life seal fell, it divided into 10 illusory shadows and suppressed Chu Fengmian at the same time. Every single one of these illusory figures was formed using celestial energy. Although they were illusory figures, the power contained within them was simply unstoppable. The 10 life seals suppressed Chu Fengmian at the same time, sealing him off and leaving him no room to retreat. 9 profound sword art, voracious wolf, giant gate, Lutsuan, heavenly mystery, 7 kills, Toaluo, 3 suns blazing sword, 4 directions hurricane sword. Chu Fengmian struck out with both swords. The halberd of the human emperor also transformed into the jar of the human emperor. All the power of the human emperor was added to the 2 spiritual swords. The 2 swords contained all of Chu Fengmian's sword intent. They were the strongest swords he had ever unleashed. They bombarded the life seal in front of him. One of the 2 sword blades was the combination of the first 6 moves of the 9 profound sword art. The power of the stars in the sky condensed into a river of sword aura. The power of the first 6 moves of the 9 profound sword art combined into one and burst out. The other sword edge was the combination of the first sword emperor's 2 sword arts, the 3 suns blazing flame sword and the 4 directions hurricane sword. Wind and fire intertwined and turned into a sword light that slashed forward. At this moment, Chu Fengmian had also used his full strength. An ancient and noble battle dragon claw formed above his head. This was no longer the battle dragon claw, but the ancestral sky dragon claw. The claw of progenitor Tianlong formed above Chu Fengmian's head and bombarded the life seal. The 6th move of progenitor. Chu Fengmian unleashed the strongest move of the 9 moves of progenitor that he had comprehended from the Dragon Clan's martial technique. The 3 forces collided with the life seal above Chu Fengmian's head. Boom! Even a true celestial realm powerhouse could be killed by such tyrannical power. The common life Great Seal finally showed signs of cracking under the pressure of the boundless power. One of the illusory figures within the seal was shattered. Immediately, the 2nd and 3rd shadows were shattered. The 10 common people's great seals were all shattered, leaving only the one with the main body. Break! Chu Fengmian's countless opportunities, his swordsmanship, and his fortuitous encounters were all sublimated the moment he stepped into the half-step celestial realm. The power of his swordsmanship and the 9 moves of progenitor were completely different from before. The sudden burst of power was beyond Chu Fengmian's imagination. It was also beyond the imagination of the Donglin Ocean Emperor. Puff! The Donglin Ocean Emperor, who was holding the life seal, suddenly spat out blood under the bombardment of the 3 forces. Even though the life seal had withstood 99% of the power, the aftermath still injured him. However, Chu Fengmian's target this time was not the Donglin Ocean Emperor, but the life seal. The 3 forces converged and bombarded the life seal. The life seal was the embodiment of heaven and earth. Under the attack of the 3 forces, a gap finally appeared. Following the appearance of these gaps, the surrounding space began to shatter. Chu Fengmian burst out with his full strength. The sudden attack was beyond the Donglin Ocean Emperor's imagination. The Donglin Ocean Emperor was caught off guard and suffered a great loss. However, the Donglin Ocean Emperor had experienced countless battles of life and death. He reacted in an instant and swallowed several saint pills. The injuries on his body immediately healed. He grabbed the life seal, and suddenly, a large amount of immortal stones appeared in his hand. There were over 200 immortal stones in this handful. The Donglin Ocean Emperor didn't hesitate. He crushed the 200 immortal stones, and an endless amount of pure immortal force was devoured by the life seal. The Mortal Life Grand Seal could only be fully activated with immortal energy. The Donglin Ocean Emperor originally thought that burning a few dozen immortal stones would be enough to suppress Chu Fengmian. He didn't expect Chu Fengmian to counterattack and suffer a great loss. This time, the Donglin Ocean Emperor took out all the immortal stones he had accumulated. More than 200 immortal stones suddenly flew out. The Donglin Ocean Emperor crushed them, and the life seal devoured them. The life seal was like a bottomless pit, madly devouring the immortal force. The more immortal force there was, the more terrifying the life seal's power became. In an instant, the crack on the life seal was instantly repaired. The world formed by the life seal was once again condensed and became incomparably sturdy. In fact, it was even sturdier than before. The immortal force of more than 200 immortal stones allowed the life seal's power to fully recover. It was even stronger than before. Kid, you're dreaming if you think you can escape from me. Today, you made me pay such a great price. Once I suppress you, I will subdue you and make you my slave. Only then will I be able to make up for my losses. The Donglin Ocean Emperor stared at Chu Fengmian and said in an extremely cold tone, "Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember." Book Guest House Mobile Version. Chapter 1988. In order to deal with Chu Fengmian, the Donglin Ocean Emperor had paid a huge price. He had burned all the immortal stones he had accumulated and turned them into the power of the life seal in order to suppress Chu Fengmian. The Donglin Ocean Emperor's face turned extremely cold as he had to pay such a huge price to deal with a half-step Celestial Realm warrior who was just a nobody in his eyes. He had decided that after suppressing Chu Fengmian, he would torture Chu Fengmian and make him a slave. Only by making him beg for death could he resolve the hatred in his heart. The power of more than 200 immortal stones was devoured by the life seal. The power of the life seal seemed to have been further awakened as a boundless suppressive force descended from the sky. Every corner of the entire space was filled with this suppressive force. As long as one did not escape from this side of the world, no matter where they hid, they would not be able to escape the suppression of the life seal. This was not the worst. From the depths of the temple, 3 rays of light suddenly flew out. The 3 Celestial Realm ancestors of the Sea Sacrifice sect had also rushed over when Chu Fengmian was entangled with the Donglin Ocean Emperor. Now, Chu Fengmian had to deal with 4 people in one breath instead of only facing the Donglin Ocean Emperor. Donglin, thank you for stopping this person. The 3 Celestial Realm ancestors of the Sea Sacrifice sect breathed a sigh of relief when they saw Chu Fengmian trapped in the space of the life seal. It's okay. The 3 of you came at the right time. You 3 deal with this person. I will use a secret technique to suppress him in one breath. Remember, don't kill him. Just keep him occupied. I want to suppress and subdue him and make him beg for death. The Donglin Ocean Emperor said through gritted teeth, his tone containing boundless anger. Okay. The 3 Celestial Realm ancestors of the Sea Sacrifice sect said in unison. Their figures entered the space of the life seal and attacked Chu Fengmian at the same time. The 3 of them had been careless previously and allowed Chu Fengmian to escape from the sacrificial lake. It was said that the 3 of them had lost a lot of face. This time, they naturally would not show mercy to Chu Fengmian. The 3 of them attacked fiercely. Although they weren't killing moves, they still forced Chu Fengmian to the side. The 3 Celestial Realm experts joined forces to deal with Chu Fengmian. It was extremely difficult for Chu Fengmian to resist, but Chu Fengmian also knew that these 3 people were not the most difficult to deal with. The most troublesome one was the East Forest Ocean Emperor. The East Forest Ocean Emperor didn't make a move, not because he wanted to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor, but because he was accumulating power. It seemed that he wanted to use a secret technique to suppress Chu Fengmian, not giving him any chance to escape. If he waited for Donglin Si Emperor to finish gathering his power, Chu Fengmian would have no chance of escaping. Life Seal? Why is it the power of this immortal artifact? Just as Chu Fengmian was feeling extremely anxious, Xing Xian's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Even Xing Xian, who had been in a deep slumber, woke up amidst this crisis. He immediately sensed the aura of the life seal. Xing Xuan, do you know the origin of this life seal? Chu Fengmian asked hurriedly. In order to deal with this life seal, he had used all his means. The sudden burst of power, just now, was almost the best opportunity for Chu Fengmian. But it was still neutralized by the East Forest Ocean Emperor. As long as the life seal was supported by enough immortal force, Chu Fengmian couldn't break it no matter how he attacked. Xing Xian suddenly woke up and knew about the life seal. Perhaps he could learn a way to deal with this life seal from him. This great mortal life seal is the imperial jade seal of a supreme expert from the desolate era, the great mortal life emperor. This great mortal life seal has the ability to form a space of its own, suppressing the heavens and even forming a world of its own. This immortal weapon has actually appeared. Xing Xian suddenly spoke, awakening many ancient memories. You're trapped in the world of the life seal. Yes, I've encountered an extremely difficult enemy. This life seal is controlled by this person. Chu Fengmian hurriedly asked, is there a way to deal with this life seal? Deal with the life seal? Xing Xian seemed to have observed the life seal for a while and immediately spoke. This life seal hasn't recognized a master yet. In this case, there's a way. As long as you can seize this life seal, you'll naturally be able to leave this space. Seize the life seal. Chu Fengmian was stunned. He hadn't thought of this. You know the ancient emperor's art of seizing war, but that alone won't be enough to seize the life seal. I know some life emperor art. As long as you cultivate this life emperor art, you'll be the successor of the life emperor. Then, with the ancient emperor's art of seizing war, you'll be able to seize the life seal. Xing Xian also knew that this was an extremely urgent moment. Without further ado, a cultivation technique suddenly appeared in Chu Fengmian's mind. This cultivation technique was obscure and difficult to understand. To ordinary people, it was like a heavenly book that was difficult to understand. However, Chu Fengmian had once comprehended the Sword Dao Totem. The countless sword techniques recorded in the Sword Dao Totem were as obscure and difficult to understand as the Life Emperor art. Chu Fengmian comprehended the Life Emperor art very quickly. In a few breaths, Chu Fengmian had comprehended a basic level and condensed a wisp of Life Emperor force. Only those who cultivated the Life Emperor art and possessed the Life Emperor force were qualified to control the Life Seal. For example, although the Donglin Ocean Emperor had controlled the Life Seal for a long time, he still couldn't make the seal recognize him as its master. Even though the Donglin Ocean Emperor had stepped into the celestial realm, he still couldn't do this because he hadn't cultivated the Life Emperor art and didn't have the Life Emperor force. Now, that Chu Fengmian cultivated the Life Emperor art, even if he only cultivated a little and condensed a wisp of Life Emperor force, it would have a huge impact on the Life Seal. Chu Fengmian resisted the attacks of the three Celestial Realm experts while condensing the Life Emperor force little by little. Fortunately, the three of them didn't kill Chu Fengmian because of the Donglin Ocean Emperor's words. Otherwise, Chu Fengmian wouldn't be so calm. Boy, it's time for you to die. The Donglin Ocean Emperor's voice suddenly came from the sky. He stood at the top of this world like a high and mighty emperor, looking down at Chu Fengmian. Suppress. The word suppress was like the judgment of an ancient emperor. The words of an emperor were of great weight. The moment the word suppress was shouted, the life seal in the Donglin Ocean Emperor's hand came crashing down. First, set a small goal. For example, 1 second. Remember, book Guest House. Chapter 1989. The East Forest Ocean Emperor's accumulated power finally reached its peak. He activated a supreme, secret technique and the power of more than 200 immortal stones to activate the life seal. He pushed the power of the great life seal to its limits. When the power was condensed to the extreme, ancient characters began to appear on the great life seal. Chu Fengyan didn't understand these ancient characters before, but now that he had cultivated the Life Emperor art, he could tell that these ancient characters were a supreme suppression technique of the Life Emperor art. Although the Common People Seal wasn't the most powerful immortal weapon of the Common People Emperor, it was the immortal weapon that had been with the Common People Emperor for the longest time. It was constantly in contact with the Common People Emperor's power and imprinted countless immortal skills of the Common People Emperor into the Common People Seal. The East Forest Ocean Emperor used a secret technique to activate all the power of the Common Life Great Seal. The power of the world formed by the Common Life Great Seal condensed at one point and suppressed Chu Fengyan. Even if it was a celestial realm powerhouse, under such terrifying power, the only result would be to be suppressed. The East Forest Ocean Emperor hadn't cultivated the Life Emperor art, so he couldn't use the full power of the seal. Otherwise, the suppression of the seal would be countless times more terrifying. Even so, when the life seal descended, Chu Fengyan felt that 99% of his power had been suppressed. In an instant, Chu Fengyan was about to be suppressed by the life seal. Be suppressed. The East Forest Ocean Emperor sneered when he saw Chu Fengyan's aura getting weaker and weaker. He took another step forward, and the life seal suddenly grew countless times larger and pressed down on Chu Fengyan. The life seal suppressed Chu Fengyan, and his aura was slowly being obliterated. It seemed that he was far from being able to withstand the power of the life seal. However, just as Chu Fengyan was about to be suppressed, a surge of spiritual power suddenly appeared from between his eyebrows. This surge of spiritual power contained the power of an emperor and was boundlessly domineering. This spiritual power was a strand of emperor force that Chu Fengyan had gathered from cultivating the Life Emperor mantra. Although Chu Fengyan was only able to condense a little bit of emperor force in this short period of time, it was enough to deal with the Great Seal of Life. The Life Emperor's power enveloped Chu Fengyan's body. Instantly, the pressure from the Life Emperor's seal disappeared. Chu Fengyan's power was once again under his control. As expected, the Life Emperor force is the nemesis of the Life Seal. The East Forest Ocean Emperor doesn't understand the Mortal Emperor mantra, so he can't use the Mortal Emperor seal against me. Chu Fengyan felt the pressure on his body suddenly decrease, and he knew that his plan had succeeded. The Life Emperor force was indeed enough to counter the Life Seal. The Mortal Life Seal was an immortal artifact forged by the Mortal Life Emperor. Only those who cultivated the Mortal Life Emperor mantra could truly use the power of the Mortal Life Seal. Although Chu Fengyan had only cultivated a small portion of the Mortal Life Emperor mantra and condensed a strand of Emperor force, it was enough. Chu Fengyan waved his hand, and the Emperor force of the common people entered the Great Seal of Life. The Great Seal of Life struggled to expel the imprint left behind by the Donglin Ocean Emperor, trying to break free. What's going on? What's happening to the Great Seal of Life? I've left a mark on my Great Seal of Life. Although it hasn't truly recognized me as its master, it has always been under my control. What's going on? The East Forest Ocean Emperor instantly felt that the Great Seal of Life was about to break free from his control, expel his imprint, and become completely independent. This made the East Forest Ocean Emperor feel that something was wrong. Panic appeared on the East Forest Ocean Emperor's face. The Great Seal of Life was the most powerful immortal artifact in the East Forest Ocean Emperor's possession. With the Great Seal of Life, the East Forest Ocean Emperor could gain the upper hand in a battle with Sky Realm experts. He didn't want the seal to break free from his control. The East Forest Ocean Emperor urged his spiritual power to retrieve the Great Seal of Life, but Chu Fengyan wouldn't let him do so. A strand of spiritual power suddenly condensed in Chu Fengyan's palm and transformed into an invisible hand that suddenly grabbed at the Great Seal of Life. This invisible hand was the ancient emperor's art of war. Chu Fengyan had killed Lan Ming and obtained his memories. This was the ancient emperor's secret technique, and the Ancient Emperor's Art of War. As soon as the Ancient Emperor's Art of War was used, the invisible hand immediately grabbed the Great Seal of Life and pulled it toward Chu Fengyan. The Ancient Emperor's Art of War? Not good. 3 patriarchs quickly attack and kill this man. He wants to seize my Great Seal of Life. As soon as the Ancient Emperor's Art of War was used, the East Forest Ocean Emperor, who had been full of confidence, seemed to have seen something that terrified him. He anxiously told the 3 Sky Realm Patriarchs of the Sea Sacrifice Sect. Chu Fengyan only had one purpose in using the Ancient Emperor's Art of War, and that was to seize the Great Seal of Life. If it had been before, the East Forest Ocean Emperor wouldn't have been afraid, even if Chu Fengyan had used the Ancient Emperor's Art of War. After all, the Great Seal of Life still had his imprint. Even if the Ancient Emperor's Art of War was used, it would still be difficult to seize the Great Seal of Life. But now, after Chu Fengyan's infusion of Emperor's power, the East Forest Ocean Emperor could clearly feel that the imprint he had left on the Great Seal of Life had been largely erased. The East Forest Ocean Emperor's control over the Great Seal of Life was getting weaker and weaker. Now that Chu Fengyan had used the Ancient Emperor's Art of War, it was simply one disaster after another. The Great Seal of Life was about to break free from his control. The East Forest Ocean Emperor was confident that he could deal with Chu Fengyan because of the Great Seal of Life. If he lost the Great Seal of Life, or if it fell into Chu Fengyan's hands, the situation would be completely reversed. The East Forest Ocean Emperor knew how terrifying the Great Seal of Life was. He didn't dare to think that it would fall into Chu Fengyan's hands. The Ancient Emperor's Art of War. Stop him. Don't let him succeed. The 3 Sky Realm Patriarchs of the Sea Sacrifice Sect didn't hesitate to attack at the same time when they heard the East Forest Ocean Emperor's words. They unleashed countless killing moves and bombarded Chu Fengyan. This time, the 3 Celestial Being Patriarchs of the Sea Sacrifice Sect didn't hold back at all. They used their supreme killing moves to kill Chu Fengyan. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Book Guesthouse Mobile Version. Chapter 1990. The 3 Celestial Ancestors had always wanted to suppress Chu Fengyan so that they could obtain his countless fortuitous encounters. But now that the Life Seal was about to fall into Chu Fengyan's hands, they changed their minds and decided to go for the kill. They had witnessed the power of the Life Seal before. If Chu Fengyan obtained it, the consequences would be unimaginable. The 3 Celestial Being Patriarchs of the Sea Sacrifice Sect had also used all their trump cards to kill Chu Fengyan. You want to kill me now? Too late. All of you will die at my hands today. Chu Fengyan roared again and again. Dragon roars resounded through the world. Behind Chu Fengyan, 6 incomparably huge dragon claws condensed. Each of the 6 gigantic dragon claws contained the origin of dragons. In the face of the onslaught of killing moves, the 6 gigantic dragon claws struck out at the same time. These 6 enormous dragon claws were the condensation of the first 6 forms of the primogenitor that Chu Fengyan had mastered. The power of the first 6 forms of the primogenitor was unleashed at the same time, colliding with the countless killing moves of the 3 Sea Sacrifice Sect Patriarchs. On the other side, Chu Fengyan also used the power of the Life Emperor Art to seize the Life Seal with the Ancient Emperor's Art of War. The imprint left by the Donglin Ocean Emperor in the Life Seal had been completely obliterated by the power of the Life Emperor. With a thought, Chu Fengyan used the power of the Mortal Emperor Art to communicate with the Mortal Life Great Seal. Suddenly, the power of the Mortal Life Great Seal was transmitted into Chu Fengyan's mind. Chu Fengyan sensed that the Life Seal had recognized him as its master. When a Mortal Life Great Seal sensed the power of the Mortal Life Emperor Art on Chu Fengyan, it didn't hesitate and immediately recognized him as its master. The Donglin Ocean Emperor had spent hundreds of years and used countless methods to achieve this. But now, Chu Fengyan had accomplished it with the Life Emperor Art. Collect! Chu Fengyan waved his hand, and the Life Seal suddenly flew out of the East Forest Ocean Emperor's control and into Chu Fengyan's palm. Rumble! The surrounding world was changing. The Life Great Seal had already recognized Chu Fengyan as its master. The surrounding space no longer suppressed Chu Fengyan. In fact, it even made Chu Fengyan feel extremely comfortable. In this part of the world, Chu Fengyan controlled the life seal and was the only ruler of this world. After seizing the life seal, all the restrictions that Chu Fengyan had been under previously disappeared, and he felt incomparably relaxed. On the other side, the pressure that Chu Fengyan had just endured suddenly shifted to the East Forest Ocean Emperor and the three ancestors of the Sea Sacrifice sect. Not good. The life seal has fallen into his hands and recognized him as its master. How is this possible? How is this possible? The East Forest Ocean Emperor was furious when he saw the life seal fall into Chu Fengyan's hands. He could sense that the life seal had recognized Chu Fengyan as its master. He had spent hundreds of years and used countless methods, but he still couldn't do it. Now, in just a few seconds, the common life Great Seal had recognized Chu Fengyan as its master. This made the Donglin Ocean Emperor go crazy with jealousy. Kill Donglin. Let's attack together and kill this man. Even if he controls the life seal, he's only a half-step celestial realm martial artist. If we attack together, we'll definitely be able to kill him. The Guardian Elder was the first to react and shouted loudly. So what if Chu Fengyan had seized the life seal? They had 4 celestial realm experts on their side. They didn't believe that Chu Fengyan could withstand their combined attacks. That's right, kill this man. Kill. Kill. The East Forest Ocean Emperor and the other 2 celestial realm ancestors of the Sea Sacrifice sect did not hesitate. They roared and attacked at the same time. At this moment, the 4 celestial realm experts attacked Chu Fengyan. 4 celestial realm experts? So what? I'll let you see the terror of the life seal. Chu Fengyan held the life seal in his hand and watched the 4 celestial realm experts attack at the same time. His expression was extremely calm as he suddenly smashed the life seal down with all his might. Chu Fengyan infused the life emperor's force into the life seal. Suddenly, the countless dormant ancient runes in the seal were all awakened. Although a mortal force could activate the life seal, the most suitable thing to activate it was the unique power of the life emperor art, the life emperor's force. Only under the activation of the Life Emperor's force could the Life Seal unleash its full power. Now that Chu Fengyan cultivated the Life Emperor art and had condensed the Life Emperor's force, he also understood many of the Life Emperor's immortal techniques in the Life Emperor art. This time, when he activated the power of the Life Seal, he also activated the power of many of the immortal techniques in the seal and suppressed them altogether. Rumble. The Common People's seal, which was powered by the Common People's Emperor force, slammed down fiercely. This time, the surrounding space folded up layer by layer. Layer by layer, the space condensed together and slammed down suddenly. Boom! The Donglin Ocean Emperor, the Guardian Elder, and the other 2 patriarchs of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect felt their strength being severely suppressed in an instant. Their strength was reduced to less than 1/10 of their original. The power of the Common Life Great Seal could suppress even 4 celestial realm experts. This was the true power of the Common Life Great Seal, the immortal weapon of the Common Life Great Emperor. Not good. Let's join forces to resist this suppression. The Donglin Ocean Emperor was the first to react and shouted loudly. The suppression power of the Life Seal was extremely terrifying. Even with their celestial realm cultivation, they couldn't resist it. Only by resisting together could they offset the suppression. The other 3 patriarchs of the Oceanic Sacrifice sect heard this and moved closer to the Donglin Ocean Emperor. However, at this moment, Chu Fengyan's figure suddenly moved. He held 2 swords in his hands and suddenly took a step forward, flying towards the Guardian Elder. In a flash, he arrived in front of the Guardian Elder and slashed down with his 2 swords. Chu Fengyan wanted to defeat the 4 celestial realm experts one by one. The Guardian Elder was the weakest among the 4. Today, Chu Fengyan wanted to kill the Guardian Elder first. See, God protection. Seeing Chu Fengyan suddenly rushing over, the Guardian Elder's face was filled with panic. He hurriedly mobilized his spiritual power and turned it into a barrier. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember, Book Guest House Mobile Edition that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.